a court of fairies and fiction. Akafath Girls Podcast. Hosts Nell and Liv. Season 2, Episode 9. Demons and Seers and Changelings, oh my.
Say what you just said.
Okay, so you guys, tonight I just want you to know I'm wearing my Bat Boy shirt that I just got off of Etsy.
Bro.
You're thinking about Azriel too. We both are.
I swear to God, we have the same fucking brain.
I swear, and like you, oh my gosh, and like you couldn't sleep last night, and I couldn't sleep last night, and like
It's
we're
so
like
weird.
the same.
We're
the
weird.
Same.
It's really.
It's bizarre. Like it's really weird. It's really weird.
And it's so
I think
weird
we
because
have, like twins or something really separated.
I
don't know.
Past lives we were twins.
Past
Definitely.
lives. Gwen and Katrine are we're
Gwen
two.
Oh my God. And then it's so weird because every time I like go to text her, she either like texts me at the exact same moment or vice versa.
I'm telling you, it's like past lives. So I just know it because we even think the same way. We have the same reactions. We're born 4 days apart, you know. It's
I
like
know.
really,
It's
not even 4 days, I don't think, but
yeah.
20. Oh no, we are.
Ooh. Anyway, it's been a while. I know you still haven't really gotten through Tog though, unfortunately.
I haven't. I literally, so I just can't because I got to the point. I have only like a couple, like not much left in AB,
Mhm.
and I'm at the part where Selena, like Sam, didn't come home. You know, it's like midnight, and she's like, "Where is he? He's not. He's supposed to be here by now." And she was like,
I hate that.
Yeah, you hate that part.
Hate that part because you know it's fucking coming.
Yeah. And I was reading it. And it's hard because my kids have been sick and they're not sleeping and we're going through all this stuff at the house. And I read it and I'm like at the part where she's like wandering the streets, like looking for him. And I'm like, it's fucking happening right now. And I couldn't finish it because my kids woke up. And also I know I need to finish it. It'll probably only take me like 30 minutes. And it's just going to be the most devastating 30 minutes ever. So.
Oh my God, what really got me was the fucking description of his body. It's awful.
Does it flash to his POV?
No.
She
just wonders like, oh, was he like hoping I showed up or was he hoping I didn't show up? Because he's just like all of this shit is running through her head. And the line that broke me is where she's like, he still smelled faintly of that cheap soap because I was too selfish to let him use my lavender soap.
I'm gonna fall. I
actually heard, I think it's an Empire of Storms, and I haven't gotten that far. I'm only on chapter 3. She lets Rowan use her lavender soap, and everyone knows why.
You're literally gonna make me cry.
It's awful. Yeah, I read that scene on Instagram where it was like, Rowan smelled of her lavender soap, and I'm like, I know why she let him use it.
Like literally, I was just even like just reading Sam's character, and I know we don't get like much of him or whatever, but like when he's talking about how Arabin had like came and visited the apartment or whatever,
and like, he was right.
Yeah. And like Selena came home and he was like, oh, I noticed you didn't tell me about Arabin like coming to visit. And he was like, and he also said to like ask you like who you were and stuff like that. But Sam was like, but like I'm not gonna ask you. You take your own time. Like you tell me. Like I trust that you'll
regardless. Take your time.
Oh,
we have the rest of our lives.
I know.
We have forever.
And then like she was like, and he pulled out my trunks and said, "While I go do this, like to start packing." Yeah, and I just like was like crying. I was just because I know
that's like the first time I actually fucking bawled in my adult life when I was fucking reading that. I was like,
what part did you cry at exactly? Did you start?
When she's with his body.
Yeah.
And Arabin is like trying to drag her away and she's like getting pissed and she's like literally draping herself over him.
Yeah, this is like he is such a good character. Such a good character. And it just fucking breaks my heart.
You bawl your eyes out, and then the last like page and a half, all you can fucking feel is rage.
Really?
Fucking rage. Fucking rage. Oh my god. I was so angry. You have no idea. I was literally fuming.
I believe it. I'm like, I'm just so fucking upset. I'm so upset. And I know, I feel like it's just gonna be like heartbreak after heartbreak. This whole like throw in a glass like series. That's what it sounds like from like listening to you guys talk. And so I dread it. I
you, Sorsha's death like was a second place to Sam's for me. And I don't understand how people literally could care less about her character.
They never talk about her.
They don't care because it's, oh, Dorian and Manon, Dorian and Manon, Dorian and Manon. But Dorian, like, this was his tragic story. Just like Sam was Aelin's.
Yeah.
Sorsha is Dorian's, and no one wants to, well, not wants to, but nobody really brings it up because, oh, him and Manon are so hot. Like, okay, but he literally, it's like Lucian and Jasminda. And I've said this since I've read it. It's Lucian and Jasminda. And the reason we didn't get a scene of Lucian and Jasminda or a flashback is because we got it with Dorian and Sorsha. The father hitting her, him screaming and being pinned down. It's the same fucking scene. The only difference is that Lucian didn't get collared. He escaped to spring.
It's crazy to me, like, that we haven't, I have never ever seen fan artwork of Sorsha because we see some fan artwork
now.
You have to make her now. You should make her. I've never seen her artwork. I've seen Sam, and Sam is like great stuff. But we should have some Sorsha artwork out in the universe, so you should probably make it.
Yeah. And I think I told you the last time we filmed there, I just finished Queen of Shadows, and so he has this scene where he's thinking of Sorsha, like the way that Aelin thinks of Sam. Because he could finally remember her name. Because the collar was off. And like, he went through shit himself. Like, he was literally fucking possessed by a demon and did all this horrible shit. Horrible shit. As a Valk demon. Which leads me into, again, this is why we get Rhys saying constantly that he's afraid of his beast form, that he's afraid he will lose himself to it, which we don't get with any other High Lords.
So you still think that Rhys is could possibly be Valk?
Rhys's beast form is definitely a Valk demon. Definitely. Definitely.
Really?
Without a doubt.
Really?
I have 0% doubt in my mind.
Why do you
exact
feel
same
that
description. Exact same power. And Rhys is bringing it up not once, not twice, like 3 different times. Like, oh, he hates giving himself over to that beast, and he's afraid that he'll lose himself to that beast, and oh, he never likes to transform into that beast. Like, we don't get that with Tamlin. Well, Tamlin's a shapeshifter, but we don't get that with any of the other High Lords. Like, Helion shifted. He had no problem with shifting into his beast form. But then, so if you look in Akawar and you look at the differences between Helion shifting into his beast form and how he reacts, and Rhys shifting into his beast form and how Rhys reacts, it's very different.
Well, what do you mean? Tell me this, because I've forgotten. Like I vaguely remember. I vaguely remember this.
So Rhys is like a Valk demon, like, you know, talons and teeth and claws and utter darkness. And then Helian's is like kind of like a phoenix form, and it has claws and, you know, golden feathers and stuff like this. But like Helian was kind of paying attention in his beast form. Like, you know, he went after the commander or whatever. And then Rhys like pays attention at first, and then he just goes fucking feral into the war. And do you remember that? Obviously, you remember the scene when Tarquin chews out Feyre.
Yeah.
And this is after. And it says that Feyre says that Rhys is still too lost in his power to bother reining in his anger at Tarquin or whatever. So like Helian kind of had no problem shifting back and forth.
Yeah.
Rhys seems to have a bit of an issue with it. And I've told you, when he gets super fucking mad, his eyes become the Valg eyes.
With the stars in them? Is that how they're described?
The black pits.
Black. That's right. Cassian in Silver Flames. I remember that. I remember that when he like comes out of
And
the
like
library.
and he can like feel the hum of the power.
Yeah.
He's like,
so,
he was like, he's never turned that toward me. Turned what toward you?
Towards you.
Turned what toward you? And then in Akathas, when he's talking about his abilities and everything, how he said like they've never been afraid of him and that power. Like what?
So here's my thing. Okay, I'm a little confused. So in Throne of Glass, because you're farther ahead than me.
Yeah.
Do the Valg demons also have a human / like fae form? Because
Maeve does. Maeve does. Maeve is a Valg queen, so she can create a body for herself.
But did she possess somebody?
No, she created her body. Like Amren.
She created her body?
Mm-hmm. Yep, she created her body, and not only that, you know what else is a fucking Valg power?
What?
Daemati is a Valg power.
Is it really? Does it say that in Throne of Glass?
Well, hers was at a much larger scale, I would assume, but we don't really know the extent of Rhys's. I told you before, but she convinced the entirety of Aurelia, including the Fae and the gods and everything, that she was the older sister of Mab and Mora. The Fae.
How did she convince the gods? That's crazy. She's that powerful.
That's why I'm saying Rhys is a part of her fucking line.
That's very interesting because
she had dark hair and violet eyes, Daemati powers. She was a Valg queen. Her purest Valg form is the exact same description as Rhysand's beast form.
Is it really?
Same.
Is it really?
It is.
Oh my gosh. I gotta catch up.
I swear SJM is gearing up for that fucking reveal.
That's what I don't understand. So like all these people who have read Throne of Glass, why do we never hear them saying that they think that like Rhys is
precious Rhysand and he's not evil?
Well, so has any of them said that there could be a possible Maeve connection, even though we have? Oh, people are saying that.
Yeah, they're like, it's so weird how he looks exactly like Maeve and he has the same power as Maeve. And like, there's been people on TikTok that said that, and like, I think like a Happy Hermit said it, and then Sam Creative LBD said it, and there's been a couple people who just pointed it out.
That's crazy because we have, so it had to have been like Dust Court and then like a Valg demon at some point like got together, right?
It's crazy that Vesperus seemed to have created her body, that Amren seemed to have created her body. As we said, there might be a connection there. I don't think I've talked about this on the podcast because it's been a few weeks. I think I was talking about it with Hannah, but I said that I think Vesperus could actually be Amren's mother.
Really? Interesting.
Because first of all, we do know that the Valg can breed. Valg/Asteri can breed. But Bryce just says that the Asteri don't like to breed. So I'm wondering if Vesperus was like their broodmare, kind of like Lauren, how Brune mentions like, oh, he just used her as a broodmare or whatever. Like, where'd that idea come from? So I think that they use Vesperus to have children. Amren's brothers and sisters and whatever were working for her because remember, she said a wrathful god. She didn't say it was a male. We know that Vesperus created the Illyrians, probably kind of by herself. We know that the Asteri also created the archangels. So they're creating all these beings, right? I think that Amren's father was one of the Tog gods.
What? Where are you coming up with this? Because I mean, I don't know the Tog gods yet, but like,
well, because we were talking about how like she was a princess and how she has so her crown was a crown of iridescent light, right? It wasn't flame, like her body was flame, but her crown was iridescent light. So I was looking up the Tog gods to see who she could be a princess of, right? Because king, god, princess. And there's like 2 of them that are talked about more than others, but it's in Throne of Glass, the actual Throne of Glass book, during the ceremony with like Oleana, the priestess and everything, and how they're handing out like, you know,
the names or whatever.
Like, Luna, all this stuff. So they talk about the god of love and fertility, which is Loomis, a male.
Mm-hmm.
And I gotta bring it up just so that I can get everything right. Hold on. Because at first I thought it was Hellas because of like the flames and everything, but because he is literally the god of the underworld and like hell. Like hell.
Okay.
But then I was like, no, it can't be Hellas because it didn't really make sense. Loomis is the firstborn of the great goddess, which is what, Erd? And isn't that who Amren is always terrified of?
Is Erd who she's terrified
of? Erd is the mother, yeah.
We don't know who she's terrified of. She's never said.
Well, she mentions the mother a lot. Loomis was the firstborn of the great goddess. He is known as the Lord of the Gods and the God of Love. His birth is celebrated at Yulmis. He's described with glistening wings. He is said to be the one to bring love and union to Aurelia after the chaos brought by the Gates of Word. Loomis is often associated with light, and his name probably stems from the English verb illuminate. So he brought love and union to Aurelia after the word gates were originally forged, slashed, opened, slashed, whatever. And isn't it funny that a random rift appeared in the sky when Amren slipped through and her father allowed her to go through, knowing she was different from all her siblings?
I love that. I love that.
If he was the god of love, that makes sense.
That makes total sense. And she like wanted to experience that, and like he would be like sympathetic to her feeling that way.
Exactly. Great glistening wings. It doesn't say whether it's light or fire or what, it just says glistening wings. And again, Loomis, like his name means light. He has iridescent light. She has a crown of iridescent light. She wanted to experience love.
Yeah. That's crazy.
So how I said that I think it's like Erd, the Tog gods, who created the Asteri, and then the Asteri created all these other creatures. So I think that the Tog gods created the Asteri, and as I said before, I think they turned against them, like the Illyrians turned against the Asteri, because they wanted to be the authority. But I think that originally they were kind of like the Valgan Tog, like, oh, if we breed with them, what can we get from it? Or and this and that and the next thing, which is why I think Vesperus was their broodmare. And I think that's why I think like when she had all her children and all of her children were like chaotic and they were, you know, taking down twin cities, which is basically what the Asteri do. They try to, you know, destroy worlds and all this stuff. I think that the Tall Gods were like, okay, like she created way too much chaos, whatever. But she did happen to escape to the Prithian world, where she then tried to convince Thea to be on the side of the Asteri, and she wanted Thea to create like more worlds and everything to continue everything. And then obviously we know what happened there, how she got trapped there or whatever. I think that Amren was like, oh fuck, my mother's here. Like, oh shit, how the fuck is she here? And like that's why she's like, the wind hears everything, the stone hears everything, they're gonna realize they didn't catch me. Like, fuck.
You think so? But like, why would
Because
Luminous breed with Vesperus? Like that doesn't. I mean, I
well,
get what you're saying. Like
we know all of the Tog gods bred. We have Aelin's line, we have Rowan's line, we have Dornian's line. Yeah. We know they all bred.
Yeah.
So
that's really wild. Like, I mean, it does make a lot of sense. I'm trying to think though. Yeah. I mean, we don't see Amren near Vesperus in CC3, which was expected, but
she knew. Come on. She knew.
It's funny because I kind of thought that like Thea was Vesperus's daughter at some point. I was like,
she
maybe
could be. Yeah. She still could be.
We don't know. Like, I want those answers and we're not getting them, you know?
I feel like it would be hilarious if like Erd was like, okay, well, one of your kids is going to be part of a powerful line that'll take you down. like this starborn magic kind of came from you, but it can be used against you too. So
I love it. I still, you know, it's so funny. I've been seeing a lot more about the starborn like Rhys hatred lately, and I get it. She kind of is awful in like the last book. She's terrible. I don't know why she wrote her like that. I still love Bryce's character. I love Bryce. She's a great character in the first 2 books.
Yeah, and like she immediately apologized to Hunt. It's not like she was a complete bitch about it. Like,
I know.
She literally had the fucking planet on her shoulders. Like, give her a fucking break.
They were both in like a really bad spot, and when you have 2 people in like really traumatizing situations,
Tamlin and Farah.
I was gonna say it mirrors that like so completely. But to my point, I don't know if we talked about this on the podcast. I had a concerning. I was did we how people were saying that like Bryce and Hunt mirror Tamlin and Farah. Did you see that?
Yeah, it's so stupid. And like, sure, you could theorize that if SJM did not literally say point blank, they are endgame. Like, they are endgame. Point fucking blank. They are endgame.
I heard that, and I was like, holy shit! I was like traumatized all over again. I was like, oh my god, we're gonna have an ACOTAR War situation all over again. And they're like,
they only got a trilogy, so no.
I know. I was like, they have to stay together.
I do want to point out something real quick that I forgot to bring up with the Vesperus Amren thing. So Vesperus has black hair.
Okay.
Black hair. She has bright blue eyes that glow. And
Vesperus? I thought she had black eyes when I read it.
Bright blue eyes that glow. And she has blood red lips. And we know that Amren made her body, but the one thing that they can't get right is the eyes.
Yeah.
Right?
That's always mentioned. It's always a thing.
It's all the eyes, but she has dark hair and she drinks blood. It's weird.
It's so weird.
I love how Bryce was like, oh, it's blowjob red. Like, no, it's blood red. Like,
I love it. I loved it. Like when I read that,
that's
I
what
love
Danica
Bryce.
used to call it. I was like, what the fuck, Bryce?
I
Not the time for the commentary.
I loved her. I love that comment. I literally cackled when I read that.
But this also kind of goes to how again how Vesperus was telling Azriel, like, oh, I'm your master, kneel, blah 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 blah. And how he's like, you're not my creator, or whatever he says. Or she says, I'm your creator or something. You're not my creator. And it goes back to Akamath, which I'm gonna bring up again, where Amren says, I don't think Azriel will ever trust me. And then followed up by, I think it was either Rhys or Cassian, but I think it was Rhys telling Feyre about how him being a shadow singer allows him to feel and see things that others can't.
Yeah. So maybe Amren, he knows
Like
Amren's
calls to like. Vesperus
Amren's
created the Illyrians. Like calls to like. He would know.
He would know that she's like the direct spawn or descendant of.
He would know that she was a Stary. Whatever is beneath her body.
Yes. I mean, not only it's making a lot of sense. The math to me is mathin'.
The math is mathin'.
The math is mathin'.
Yeah.
I'm like,
and this also goes with the fact that she wanted to do a Tog crossover book, basically.
She totally wants to do a Tog crossover book.
Yeah. So I think, if she does do a Tog crossover book novella, I think it's going to explain Amren.
Really? I thought we were okay.
Coming through the rift. I'm convinced she came from the Tog world. Let's be real. I'm convinced.
Have you read any character in the Tog books that you're like, this could possibly have been Amren?
No, not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
But there was a I think I told you, I already read the scene in Kingdom of Ash when
Don't tell me. No, hush.
No, it's just about the lock thing. But anyways, the gods the gods are being stupid bitches to her. And there's like one in particular that like they don't name, and she's just a super fucking bitch. And she's like, just kill her, 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 just kill her. And I'm like, that sounded a lot like Vesperus right now. Sounded a lot like Vesperus. And then also sounded a lot like Amren. Just look in her mind. Just do this. Just do that. Just do it, Rhys.
Just get it done with.
Just get it done. I was like,
she was unnamed.
Yeah, whoever was being a bitch to her, like they weren't. I don't think they were naming her because she was trying to talk to Mala, and the other gods were there and like being assholes.
Oh my god! Oh, I need to read it.
I was like, this sounds like Vesperus. And again, which I will repeat again, Elain fucked up and put them in a fucking hell realm, which is the only way you can escape to other planets. Through the rifts in hell.
Through the rifts in hell, you can. Okay.
Yeah.
But why would they not go back to the Tog world then? Because she locked it up?
Yep. So if they were all trapped in a hell realm, which she thought killed them, but let's be real, it didn't kill them. They escaped.
They escaped the gods. Well, Twilight of the Gods, right? Is that who we're gonna be reading about?
Oh, absolutely. It's gonna be the fucking Hog gods. It's going to be the Asteri. It's going to be how the Valg were created. It's going to be the death gods. It's going to be Koshi and like all these fucking people. The Weaver, the Bone Carver. Crazy.
You think so?
I 100% think so.
Oh my
Because
God.
this is why she left all this shit out of CC3, because it would have been like a 5,000 page book with all the history and how everything happened. She couldn't put all of that in CC3. It's a whole series in and of itself.
I just still feel like it was like a fumbled, I don't know.
Well, Bloomsbury wanted her to do another series on it, hence Twilight of the Gods. She already signed on for a trilogy for it.
She did sign up for a trilogy. So I wonder if Twilight of the Gods, I wonder if it came after or before
it's
CC3.
going to be the very, very... I have a feeling we're going to get a Tog World book, a Crescent City World book, and a Prithian World book. But they're all going to kind of flow into each other, like down the timeline.
Yeah.
And everything that happened, like who bred with who had who was Amren, when did Amren get in there, blah, 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 blah. And I was literally ranting to Hannah about this because I sent her a whole Crescent City Tog Prithian timeline that I thought up. And I haven't actually put it into an actual timeline yet, but it's just blocks of text or whatever that I sent her. And she's like, holy fucking shit, you really have this figured out, don't you? I'm like, I'm getting there. And it was crazy. So yeah, basically I think that they were trapped in the Hell Realm and they bred, obviously. What else did they have to do there? Like, what else did they have to do?
So the gods are breeding with each other, or the people in hell?
Yeah. Breeding with each other. And then like Amren and her siblings were like Vesperus and Loomis's kids, right? Or whatever. And you know, they never specified, I just want to point this out because I realized this. She never specified that the cities that she had to burn down were actually on a planet. I think that
Amren, the two cities?
I think that they bred and they had her and her siblings to try to destroy Hell. I think it was Hell cities that she was burning to the ground with dragon fire, because it's the only thing that can kill Hell, right?
Okay.
And that's why Amren is likened to a dragon, because I think her fire was dragon fire, even if she's not a dragon. I think that's probably where the dragons get it or where it originated from. I think the twin cities that she smote wholly were cities in Hell. And then one day, the rift opened up because this is at the exact same time. Now, here's where the timelines get a little weird. Because when the rift opened up to Hell and to Amren, this was the exact same moment that Thea opened the portal to Rigelus.
Okay.
And as we know, the Asteri can only get through portals either through Starborn or through a rift, which was basically the Northern Rift in Hell, right? Even though they closed it because they were afraid of Hell, which is why they needed a Starborn heir to open the portal. But before they didn't, because this was before, I think, they closed the rift, the Northern Rift. This is before they closed it, I think.
Okay.
So I think that Rigelus was moving between the Northern Rift, and that caused the ripple effect, which caused Amren to see it open in Hell while she was trying to smite these cities for people. She's like, oh shit, there's a rift that opened up in the sky. And that's when she was like,
but Okay, here's my only thing with that. I love that theory and I like the idea. Wouldn't all of the gods be trying to get out through the rift? And if they were stuck in hell from like when Elain put them in,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, but Amren's the only one that we know of that got out. So that's my thing with that.
Amren said that they were perfectly fine to keep destroying whatever they were destroying. I think that I think they were going to destroy all of hell. I think their plan was to destroy all of hell, and then once all that was destroyed, obviously, they would be let out, it would crumble.
Yeah.
And I think it was just, taking a long time, obviously, as these things do.
Yeah.
And so when Rhys moved through the Northern Rift to Thea and Fionn, I think that's the same rift that Amren saw.
I mean, the timelines like add up when you think about it. Like, so we have these two big events happening like simultaneously, or all these characters.
And remember, this is the best part of this. Remember how Hell said that, or the Princes of Hell said that they were trying to color them in Hell. Remember? The colors didn't work.
Yeah.
They were trying to color them. They were trying to destroy their cities. And it didn't work because they were just as powerful as them. I think that I don't know, I think that they might have seen Amren go through the rift. I think that was before their mass exodus, but again, they were sending people after the Asteri, right?
Uh-huh.
And I think that, I don't know, that it has to have something to do with Thanatos still being in Prythian. Has to.
What, Amren being in Prythian has to do with Thanatos being in Prythian, or?
Yeah. Well, because
Really?
Vesperus ended up there, the Death Gods ended up there, and Amren ended up there. All of them. So they have to have like a Prince of Hell to watch over things if those creatures are there, right?
Right.
But anyway, then the mass exodus happens and Hell follows them to all these different planets, ends up in Midgard, and we know that whole story. But at the end of CC2, I don't know an Apollyon. I don't know. I don't know what Thanatos. I don't know.
She's never heard those names.
Liar! She knows exactly who the fuck they are because she knows exactly that they're hunting for her. They'll remember they haven't caught me.
Yeah.
She knows exactly who the Princes of Hell are.
Wait a second. What if, you know how we were like, oh, they whisper in the stone and like all that stuff, and we're like, it's Vesperus, it's Vesperus. What if it's like Thanatos that can hear through the stone and can like whisper in the wind and all that stuff? I know that Koshi's another one, but like, what if Thanatos is
Well, I
hunting
think that's what she
Amren?
means. I think that's what she means by they. Because collectively, there's so many people looking for her.
For Amren. But why specifically Amren? Because she's a descendant of a Tog god? Is that why?
Well, I think, one, it's because Vesperus sees her as a traitor. And we know what she does to traitors.
Yeah.
We know what she does to traitors. And Alias fucking gutted and left on the mountain for betraying her.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's that. And then, we have Thanatos who just can't stand any of them and wants them dead. But I think he also knows that he also must know that she possesses dragon fire. Because that's
She has to also be like a part dragon. I don't know how to describe it. Like, how can we make it so she's part dragon?
Well, no, so I think that Amren and her siblings were, I don't think they were dragons. I think I'm trying to like describe this. So you know how Apollyon's power turned into Thunderbird power?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's how Amren's siblings' power went down the line and it like ended up creating dragons.
Oh my gosh, it's so complicated. It's
I hold on. I can read it to you if you want. I wrote
no,
out
I do. It's just complicated for me because I'm trying to keep track of like everything and like who's with who.
I wrote out the whole.
I love it. I love it because I've been.
She was like, "What the fuck?" I was like, "Yeah, I think I figured it out at like 4 a.m. on a random fucking Monday." When
Well, you
sleep.
said that to me so I can read it. Oh my god, that's amazing.
Yeah, and it goes into, you know, when Amren went through the rift, and it goes into when Rowaylan's descendants went through the rift. And oh, that's something I wanted to bring up. So the Rowaylan descendants and Lydia and Hamlin, I actually think that there were if not multiple, at least 2 Rowaylan descendants. One could just be from Rowaylan, and I think one was probably, like we said, the product of like Rowaylan and Lysadian's line coming through. So I think there was like 2 of them that came through. And if they can shapeshift, keep in mind, I think one of them, kind of like Thea after she let the Asteri in, like after she trusted the Asteri, which we know the Tog people had known Rigelus for a while. I think those 2, you know, went through with Rigelus. I think one of them, which was the product of both lines, was like, oh fuck, this wasn't good. They're trapping us all here, whatever. I think that they saw Celine open the portal to the Prithian world. I think they shapeshifted their ass through that portal.
Really?
Thinking that it was probably the way back to their world. And then they realized it was another world, and that's Prithian's world, and that's Tamlin's mother's line.
You know, it's funny is that it makes so much sense that like Tamlin and Lydia. So Tamlin and Lydia are related.
They're distant cousins. Like,
distantly related.
Mm-hmm. Well, just like Rhys and Azriel and Mor and Cormac and Morven and Lauren and all of these people. Bryce and Rune.
Like Rhys and Bryce are actually like are more closely related than Rhys and Mor.
No, they're about the same. They're about the same.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it depends on how many generations, I guess, but yeah, they're about the same.
But Rhys
and Mor were directly through Dusk and Night.
Okay.
And then Rhys and Bryce were directly through so Celine's sister Helena into Einar into Bryce and whatever. But see, it gets complicated because then like if Rune is part of Helena's, then how is Bryce part of Celine's? And like that's just a little, the bloodlines are complicated.
Yeah.
But yeah, but he's closer to Mor than Bryce, but they're all distant, whatever.
Distant relatives.
Azriel too.
Oh, I know. Azriel's definitely a part of it. He's definitely a cousin.
His mom definitely fucking told him. Definitely fucking told him.
I really like, have you talked about your theory about her yet?
The one that I posted on Instagram?
The one we talked about the other night, which has me thinking, and I'm like, holy shit, like maybe that's true.
Fucking reel blew up, dude. I'm having nonstop fucking comments. I'm not joking.
On Instagram? Yes. Are you really?
I woke up to like 50 something fucking comments.
What are people saying? Tell me.
Holy shit.
I have the most uncomfortable chair. I like have to buy a new one.
57,000 views.
Wait, is that more than the Cornesta one?
57,000. And I hate it because it was part 1. And of course nobody listens to fucking part 2. Whatever. Part 2 is like 2,000. So
57 to 2,000.
97 comments. What the fuck? Want this to be real. This makes a lot of sense. Oh my God, is his mom really alive? People, pay attention.
I know.
This is so good.
Or
This
they
makes so
haven't
much
read that far.
sense. Wait, you totally ate with this. This makes sense. Love this theory the most. This makes so much sense. Wait, stop. OMG. Holy shit. Yes. Just thinking that Rhys's mother was being kind to his future wife in general, but according to this, she actually knew it would be Feyre. That makes it so much better. Wait, as his mother is alive? People, come on. Hoping and praying the next book was from Azriel's perspective. I need to know what really went down with Mor and Eris. Which book is this? Is Az mother really alive? That's basically the gist of the comments. Is she really alive? People, have you been paying any sort of attention?
Unless they haven't read the CC3 book, which a lot of people I think are struggling to. I think
she's brought up 3 times. It's Akafas, it's the Akasif bonus chapter, and it's the Hofas bonus chapter. But I don't think anyone reads the bonus chapters, so then they would only have like the she, or I'm going to visit her, and Akafas. Which sucks, because like I wish the bonus chapters were like in all of the books.
I know.
Oh my God, yes, so much yes, spot on, good theory. Oh my God, this is so good. Oh my God, what the fuck? Love how the books turn us all into conspiracy theorists.
I know they do.
All this stuff. But yeah, basically, I didn't write this one down. I have a bunch of theories that I wrote down, but I didn't write this one down, unfortunately. But basically, I think Azriel's mom is the seer. I've said this before because of how he, sees Elain having a vision. He's like, what the fuck? Winnows out, comes back, and then he's like, you're a seer. So there's that. But then I was thinking the other night, and this is what's in the reel. So Rhys says that his mom and Azriel's mom are friends, which is why Azriel's mom allows her to take him in, because obviously she was probably dealing with all her trauma and shit from, Azriel's dad, which he mentions in Akasif. He used to cross his arms before he would degrade her, and that's why Azriel always makes a mental note never to cross his arms in front of the priestesses, which is so cute.
I know.
Oh, so Rhys's mom and Azriel's mom were friends. If Azriel's mom is a seer, this is how Rhys's mom knew about Feyre. Knew about how to make the dresses. Knew that she would get the ring. Knew that she would survive the marriage if she got the ring, aka survive having Nyx. And this is, I'm convinced that his mother is the one that told him where to find Truth Teller. Because if she wasn't in the mind space to raise him on her own, I feel like she would want to do something to protect him when she couldn't be there. And what better way than literally giving your son a made weapon that can kill anything that threatens him?
I love that theory that she saw that, and
she was like, there's this knife in this cave and you have to go retrieve it. I bet she was like, it's a family heirloom, you need to go retrieve it for me. And I think he got it thinking that it was going to be for her, and she's like, no, I want you to have it.
Yeah.
I think it was from his mom, and I think that's why he's so protective over it, because she saw it and she found it for him.
I love that. I would love that. I need that to be true, because that's the sweetest thing.
Because I think the first time that he used it, he realized that when someone was telling a lie, it I think froze or burned him. I forget which is which. And he was like, oh shit. And then he tried it out again, and he was like, oh shit, I'm gonna call it Truth Teller. Because young little Az, working for Rhys's terrible father, she would want
who really wasn't that terrible, right? He was the best out of all the dads, basically.
He separated them because he was afraid that they were more powerful than him.
Just a coward.
So yeah, so Azriel's mom was like, I need him to be able to protect himself.
I love it. I just can't get over how Azriel was like, my mom is anything but awful. I was like, oh.
This is probably the main reason I want the Gwenriel book first. Because I want to see his mom. Like, that's why I want
Gwenriel book.
I need Gwenriel scenes with his mom, because also, if you remember, his mom and Gwen have the same trauma. The same trauma.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you, like, I know that everyone, she's posting these Easter eggs, and she's like posting spring, and but then she's posting winter and stuff like that. But like, I'm gonna stick true to what I know, okay? And that is what I have read in Crescent City 3, where we leave off with Nesta and Azriel and that cliffhanger. I truly feel we are going to continue on that path with Nesta and Azriel, and then Gwenriel is going to happen.
It's definitely going to be a Gwenriel Valkyrie book. Let's be so fucking for real.
Because
anyone that says that it's Elriel at this point is like out of their mind.
Well, not even Elriel, but like they're like even I was like, oh, maybe the next book is spring. Like, I want a Tamlin POV. Like, we talked about this.
Yeah.
But like, and I could see it, and she put those stories on there, but like, I'm like, okay, I have to rein in what I want versus what I think is actually going to happen. And I have to be realistic, and like, I'm just going to go by what the book says and where we end in that book. So I think it's a Gwenriel book next. I am convinced it's Gwenriel. I do not think it's going to be Elain. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So,
I mean, they could all be in the same book.
I know, well, I want individual books for everyone. Like, I want Tamlin to have his own book, and I want Eris to have his own book, and like all that. But realistically, what I honestly think is going to happen is it's going to be an Azriel Gwenriel book, right? I don't know if I said this on air. I forget. It's been a few weeks, guys. So if I have, you can skip over this. But I think it's going to be Gwenriel Valkyrie book. Toward the end, the Koshi thing's going to pick up.
Yeah, I agree.
Where do we left off in Crescent City 3, as you said, with Azriel and everything like this. But there was also the sense of Tamlin as part of this Starborn line too, right? So she's kind of indirectly, not mirroring, but she's indirectly kind of connecting Azriel to Tamlin. And we leave off in Silver Flames with everybody and their fucking mother saying, Tamlin needs to be ready for this war. Tamlin needs to be fixed for this war. Tamlin needs to be healed for this war. We're going to need Tamlin to help us fight Koshi. So I honestly think, going back, because the only real interaction we've seen between Azriel and Tamlin was obviously at the High Lords meeting when he was like, be careful how you're speaking about my High Lady. But I honestly, in my head, fully fucking believe that Azriel knew about the sisters' affair with Tamlin. I honestly believe that.
Really?
I honestly
I'm of the mindset.
I do think that he thinks that ultimately it ended how it ended, and he believes Rhys's story, and he thinks that they're dead. But I do think that he knew about the affair. He was the Shadow Singer, and he wasn't working for Rhys at the time. Remember, he was working for the father, who, again, I think wanted them dead. So how did the father get any indication that the daughter was fucking around?
That's interesting. I don't know. I don't know, because I feel like Azriel would feel more guilty about Rhys's sister than he does.
Well, he does.
Unless that's the connection she's trying to make with Azriel being like, it looks like Rhys's sister, like in CC3.
Exactly. I was just gonna bring it up. Yes. Not only that, but there is a scene in where, I mean, I guess it's more Lucian, but Tamlin is brought up as well. There's a scene in Akaphas where Mor and Cassian are dicking around, and they're like, let's make bets on if, Lucian's gonna stay with Tamlin for Solstice. Let's make bets if he's even gonna show up or whatever. And do you know what Azriel's fucking response was?
What?
He goes, you wouldn't like people betting on you. Like, he gets kind of pissed. And Cassian's like, what are you talking about? You guys bet on me all the time. And then it like turns into a little joke thing. But he was like pissed that they were betting on him.
Betting on Tamlin or Lucien or both?
Well, kind of both. Yeah.
Both. He kind of stood up for them. I did not remember that.
I actually had to remind someone on TikTok this because they were doing a video about how Azriel hates Lucien and all this stuff. And I was like, well, not really. He really didn't hate him. That's why I think the bonus chapter was just him like PTSD, blowing off steam, kind of saying shit that he didn't really mean about Lucien, because he stood up for him. And he had been cordial with him and he had been working with him on the Autumn Court stuff. Yeah. So he's like, I love it. Betting on you. Like, he gets kind of pissy about it.
I didn't realize up until like our conversations about Azriel, like he always kind of consistently stands up for people. Does the right
told you he's the most moral bat boy.
He's like I know. Sweetheart. He is a sweetheart. I don't know why I never really thought of him like that until lately.
I have to bring up the scene because
soft guy.
Of course, Cassian turns it into a fucking joke. I was like, come on. And more in Cassian again. Oh, here it is. Okay. So, yeah, this is... Oh, it's actually Rhys's point of view.
Is it?
Yes, it's chapter 16 of Akifas. It's in Rhys's point of view. And his view of Azriel is like really... I always find it kind of interesting because he treats him like shit. But like in his point of view, he's like, oh, Azriel. Huh. It's just weird. Basically they go to I think it's the House of Wind. Yeah, it's the House of Wind. And Azriel and Cassian have to like share a room. And they're kind of pissy because all the sisters are there now. Cassian dumped his leather bag on the narrow bed against the wall of the fourth bedroom. Oh, in the townhouse. It's the townhouse. The contents rattling. You brought weapons to Solstice? Azriel, setting his own bag on the bed opposite Cassian's, threw our brother a vague look of alarm. After passing out on the sitting room couches last night and a likely uncomfortable sleep, they'd finally both bothered to settle into the bedroom designated for them. Cassian shrugged. Some might be gifts. He plopped onto the bed, better suited for a child than an Illyrian warrior. What a bet that was Lauren's bedroom, just saying.
I know.
And the rest, the females bring their jewelry, I bring my weapons. He's such a piece of shit.
Who is that, Cassian or Azriel?
Yes, Cassian.
I love Cassian.
I know a few females in this house who might take offense to that. He offered me a wicked grin, the same grin he'd given Devlon and the commanders at our meeting an hour ago. Blah, 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 blah. Azriel strode to the lone window at the end of the room and peered into the garden below. I've never stayed in this room. His midnight voice filled the space. Okay, Rhys, jealous.
I know.
Azriel's voice is so nice, though.
You mean on the Audible?
Everyone doesn't like that. I think it's glorious. I think it's so nice.
I have to listen now.
That's because you and I have been shoved to the bottom of the ladder, brother. Moore gets the good bedroom. Elain is living in the other, and so we get this one. He didn't mention the final empty bedroom, Nesta's old room, which would remain open. Azriel, to his credit, didn't either. Better than the attic, I offered, Rhys. Okay. Now, poor Lucien, Cassian said, smiling, if Lucien shows up. No word about whether he would be joining us or remaining in that mausoleum Tamlin called a home. My money's on yes, Cassian said. Want to make a wager? No, Azriel said, not turning from the window. Cassian sat up, the portrait of outrage. No, Azriel tucked in his wings. Would you want people betting on you?
I can so see it playing out, like Cassian sitting up like that.
You assholes bet on me all the time. I remember the last one you did, you and Moore making wagers about whether my wings would heal. Rhys snorted. True. Azriel remained at the window. Will Nesta stay here if she comes? So he's worried about Nesta too. All of them. He's worried about everybody. This man is a ball of anxiety.
He's an angel, a literal angel. I want to be mated to Azriel. Sign me up.
I know, right? Cassian found the siphon atop his left hand to be in need of polishing.
I
That's
love Cassian.
me. Whatever.
He's trying to look distracted because he's very upset, obviously.
I decided to spare him. Of course you did, Rhys, and said to Azriel, our meeting with the commanders went as well as could be expected. Devlon actually had a schedule drawn up for the girls' training whenever this oncoming storm blows up. I don't think it was for show. Rhys is going to believe Devlon now. I'd still be surprised if they remember once the storm clears, Azriel said, turning from the garden window at last. Cassian grunted in agreement. Anything new about the grumbling in the camps? Az and I had agreed to wait until after the holiday to divulge to Cassian the full extent of what we knew, who we suspected or knew was behind it. We told him the basics, though, enough to assuage any sort of guilt. But I knew Cassian as well as myself, perhaps more so. He wouldn't be able to leave it alone if he knew now, and after all he'd been putting up with these months, he deserved a break. Azriel leaned against the carved wood footboard of the end of the bed. Little to add to what you already know. And then Rhys put, smooth, easy liar, better than me.
About Azriel?
Far better than me. This is why, so Rhys says this, and this is why I cackle so fucking hard in the bonus scene when Gwen is like, really? Really, you forgot something? What did you forget, bitch?
She calls him out. I know, but
because Azriel's like, I know my face was a perfect neutral, and she's like, you fucking lying.
I want Granular to happen, but that's a whole other conversation we'll have to have.
Oh my god. Okay, and then so this is why I also think the Illyrians are going to be part of Azriel's story and like the Valkyrie thing, because they're talking about the Illyrians possibly revolting.
Yeah, that's
Remember?
been a thing. Yeah,
What it would cost Cassian to fight the people he still so desperately wanted to be a part of and to kill them. It'd be far different from what we'd done to the Illyrians who'd gladly served Amarantha and done such terrible things in her name. Far different. But we would deal with this later. Who used this bed anyway? It's Amren sized.
Cassie says it?
I snorted. Careful how you whine. Farah calls us Illyrian babies too often already. Azriel chuckled. Her flying has improved enough that I think she's entitled to do so. But also the way that she fashioned her wings after Azriel said reason. She's like, I want the biggest ones.
I forgot that. It was when they were up on the mountain, right?
Yeah.
And she looked at Azriel's wings and she like
those ones.
Yeah.
I said to Cassian, I'll see about finding you two longer beds. He waved a hand. No need. Better than the couch. You being too drunk to climb the stairs last night aside, space in this house does indeed seem to be an issue. You could stay up at the house if you'd prefer. I can winnow you in. The house is boring, Cassian yawned for emphasis. Az sneaks off into the shadows, and I'm left all alone. Azriel tossed me a look that said, Illyrian baby indeed.
I love their friendship, and like I love their brotherhood. They're so cute.
Az sneaks off to the shadows and leaves me by myself.
I'm all alone. I would say something like that. I'm all alone here. I
hid my smile and said to Cassian, perhaps you should get a place of your own then. I have one in Illyria. Then why don't you fucking go there?
Oh, I forgot about that. He never goes to his own place. Nesta never, and then
because he's fucking codependent and he can't stand being alone.
I love him. So say that. He's got a good heart.
Rhys is like, you have a fucking house. He's like, but I'm alone. So I'll cramp myself in this Amren-sized bed so I can stay among people.
I know.
You have a whole fucking house, Cassian.
I love Cassian so much.
I meant
He's
here.
so soft.
Cassian lifted a brow. I don't need a house here. I need a room. This one would be fine if it didn't have a doll's bed.
I love. They're so cute.
My suggestion that he might want a place of his own soon. Oh my god. Perhaps that will be your solstice present, Cassian. A new bed here. Better than Moore's presents, Az muttered.
I love that they all just shit on her gifts.
All right, hello. We are back. Finally.
I know. We always start our podcast like that too.
I feel like it's been forever. I have been itching to get all of this stuff in, and we could not film last time.
Are you itching to talk about Tog, or are you itching to talk about Akatar?
Akatar.
Yes.
Akatar. So much theories. So much.
I love it. We've talked a lot about recent events that have happened too. I know you and I differ on a lot of those things, so I'm curious to see like what you've come up with, and we'll talk about what I've come up with, and it'll be fun.
I stan Gwyneth Bardara.
Oh, is this from your shop? Dude, that Gwen is looking like pretty hot there. Look at that.
I love it.
She looks gorgeous. I love that, Melanie. Nicely done. You think if Rhys's mom was the seer, that like just her being friends with her and like witnessing how she was and how she acted, like, don't you think he could have been like, she's doing this, like, and she could have been like, I've seen this before in Rhys's mom.
But then wouldn't Rhys know about Elain? He would have said, "Oh, she's a seer."
Was Rhys was he there when that was happening?
Yeah.
I know he was the first time.
Yeah, I guess there.
He was there.
He would have known if it was his mom. Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's true.
And do you remember that line from Cassian in Silver Flames? I have to pull it up now because I need to say it. Okay, this is from Cassian's POV, whatever. It says, at the far end of the room, a little dais led into a broad-raised alcove flanked by more books, and in its center, a massive working model of their world, the stars and planets around it, and some other fancy things that had been explained to Cassian once before he deemed them boring and proceeded to ignore them completely. Azriel, of course, had been fascinated. Rhys had built the model himself centuries ago. It could not only track the sun, but also tell time, and it somehow allowed Rhys to ponder the existence of life beyond their own world, and other things Cassian had again instantly forgotten. So Azriel was like, yes, my mom told me about this. Let's research it, Rhys.
Yeah.
I think Azriel kind of tipped Rhys off to that. Because I feel like Azriel's the most studious of all of them. Like I kind of feel like Rhys wouldn't do that on his own, you know? I don't know. I feel like he just wouldn't have time for that. I feel like Azriel was like, let's make a planetary model. And Rhys was like, what the fuck?
Didn't you say wait, I thought the model was like already built and like Azriel saw it, right?
Well, yeah, it says Rhys built the model himself centuries ago, and Az was fascinated by it.
Yeah, I don't think that's right. I like it, but I think Rhys really has a hobby of like thinking about, astronomy and other worlds and stuff. Like I truly believe that.
I still think that his mom was the witch and Azriel's mom was the seer.
That could totally be possible.
Because again, the fucking bean. There's no fucking way. He did not have that bean. He did not have it in a little pocket in his underwear drawer. That's not how it went down. He fucking created it.
Listen, I am taking that bean and I'm just gonna throw it out into the trash because you
cannot throw away the bean. Rhys made the bean because his mom was part witch and he delved into his witch side.
It's just so weird. It's just so weird.
That's how he has telekinesis. I swear to God.
What makes you say
he can float things over to him? He has fucking telekinesis.
But why would that be a witch thing? It's the bean.
He created it out of thin air. A language bean? That's a spell. He used a spell to make an object.
I don't know why when I was reading that, I was kind of like, oh, Helion made that. I was like, he like winnowed over to the day court, was like, yo, give me that language bean.
Winnowed over to the day court, got permission to enter, knew Helian's schedule and that he was lounging around that day and he wasn't having sex with a rando. Then got the bean from him and winnowed back in a mere 30 seconds. Ain't no way. Ain't no motherfucking way.
Or it was in Hewn City with like Thanatos and them. And I thought about that. I was like, okay, flew to Hewn City and like got it.
I'm still upset that he winnowed to Hewn City and back with the fucking Veritas orb after we had that whole fucking scene in Akamath of him being like, you have to act like my whore so we can get this orb because they won't let us get it unless you do.
That's such a good point. Oh my god, I literally
her naked on his lap.
I literally totally did not think about that.
It makes me mad. It makes me mad.
That is such a solid point.
Oh, Kier's not gonna let us get this orb from his trove. But when Bryson's there, he can just grab it. Funny how Farah wasn't there when he did that, too. She would have called him the fuck out.
Unless it was like after he like smashed Kier's arms into little tiny baby pieces that Kier's like, have it, take it. Look, I don't need the naked girl.
Why would they even bring it back? Like, why would they bring it
back? So you like keep like, so it's basically yours if you're just like, hey,
your trove.
I have this, like, and it is his. Let's be real. He did just want Farah naked on his lap. I mean, let's be real.
The minute that he did that, I go, you motherfucker. I go, you asshole.
I knew. I knew it. I knew it the minute. When I was reading that scene, I was like, is this really necessary? Like, I didn't understand the reasoning behind it. And everyone was like, it was a really big deal. They had to play the whore.
They had to trauma bond.
And I was like, I don't think it's really that necessary. Like, he didn't need
it was proven not necessary. I was ragey that whole scene. Dude.
I mean, they were like both really into it, so I was like, okay, if this is like what we're doing.
Using his witch gifts and not saying he's a witch, and then him getting the orb and not needing Farah to play his whore, I was just so fucking done with Rhys in that book. But at the same time, like, I needed explanations of his fucking powers in that book because it made no sense.
I know. We still don't really have. We have some explanations, but not all. You know,
I took some screenshots today, as I do.
Love that.
And I found something, or I found a few somethings actually. I found a few somethings, and it's about Nesta and the Dust Court and the 8-pointed star, because I got really curious to see how many times it was mentioned in Akasif, and it was only a few, but there were 2 or 3 super, super important scenes that I think people read and were just kind of like a little confused by before Hofas, and were like, and they probably like don't reread the books. But like, I've reread them so many times and I still was like, I get it now.
I've reread Silver Flames literally 5 times.
There's so much fucking info dumping.
Yeah, there's a lot. Like, it's even confusing to me, and I've read it. It's like my favorite book, and I read it over and over and over again. Like, the whole Lanthes thing, that whole thing, the Wild Hunt. I mean, all of it truly is really weird.
Where is the Wild Hunt? I swear to you, that's going to be in Tamlin's book. It has to be. But anyway,
it's very Tamlin-esque, the Wild Hunt.
Anyways, okay, so I'll do this one first because my most important point I'll save till the end.
Okay.
But this is when they're getting the harp. So first of all, the whole thing with Gwen's music that was picked out by Clotho to lure her to the harp. I've always said that was super suspicious, and I don't think Gwen knew about it because when she like half collapsed after, Gwen looked really scared. for her. Like, she had no idea what was happening. So I do think it was Clotho and not Gwen. And if Gwen is a light singer, I don't think she knows. So she doesn't know. Like, she's a sweetheart. Please. I stand Gwen. I love her so much. But she's Lord to the Harp, and it says, if you remember in Hofas, how she was telling Rhys, like, the harp was here, like the harp was over the constellations and all this stuff. So it says, the wards lay heavy against Nesta's skin with each step across the stone floor to the shining harp. It looks newly polished, she observed to Cassian. So this was when they went for it. Who watched the archway? How is that possible? It exists outside the bindings of time, just as the cauldron does. Nesta studied the carvings in the floor. They all seemed to spiral toward one point. I think these are stars, she breathed. Constellations. And we got them all named in Hofas, remember?
I know, I'm remembering my, yes.
And like a golden sun, the harp lay at the center of the system. This is the night court, Cassian said dryly. He's such a fucking idiot. I'm sorry.
Hush your mouth. Don't say that.
Oh, look, it's a carving of the sun. It must mean the night court.
Shame, Melanie. Shame on you. Leave Cassian alone.
But it felt different from the night court magic somehow. No shit! Because it's a sun and not a moon. Nesta paused before the harp, the wards pressing into her skin as she surveyed its golden frame and silver strings. The harp sat atop a large rendering of an 8-pointed star. Its cardinal point stretched longer than the other 4, with the harp situated directly in the heart of the star. The hair on the back of her neck stood. She could have sworn the blood in her body reversed course. She had the creeping feeling that she had been brought here. Not by the cauldron or the mother or the harp, but by something vaster, something that stretched into the stars carved all around them.
Is that supposed to be like a Vesperus reference or something else?
Oh, I don't know. Confusing. Not the mother, not the cauldron, not the harp. So, I don't know.
So nothing good, maybe? I don't know.
Oh, like fate, maybe. But they didn't... See, the thing was, in Hofas, like, they didn't know if the mother and fate were one and the same, or if fate was above the mother. So I think that's what it's insinuating here. I think that fate is actually a bigger... I think it's like a... Not a person, but like kind of like the idea, you know, like fate, like destiny.
Yeah.
Can't really, whatever. The mother could probably fuck with it, but she probably doesn't too much.
Yeah.
But she did to give Nesta her powers back. Yeah, not by the cauldron or the mother or the harp. Something vaster, something that stretched into the stars, carved all around them. Its cool, light hands guided her wrists as she picked up the harp. That was weird to me. And actually, as I'm reading that kind of reminds me of, I know I'm gonna say Tamlin, and I know this probably has nothing to do with Tamlin, but it reminds me of Tamlin pressing Feyre back in the chair in ACOTAR. I don't know, like the hands, but I think she felt the mother's hands like on her shoulder and everything. Yeah. So it might be the mother, unless it's Thea's spirit.
It could be,
or Celine's.
Or, yeah.
Spirit. I mean, we don't know. Her fingers brushed the icy metal. The harp hummed against her skin, as if it still held its final note from the last time it had been used. I want to say that the harp is the only thing that can summon a portal through space and time. And you know what I'm going to say?
What?
That I think she accidentally summoned Cormac when she touched the harp.
Oh, no, she didn't!
It hummed against her skin and held its final note from the last time it had been used. The last time it had been used when it opened the portal to Midgard. The white light.
Definitely not. That is unhinged right there.
Faye screamed, pounding on the stone that hadn't been there a moment before, pleading for their children's sakes, begging to be let out and let out. This is talking about the fucking crossing to Midgard. Nesta had the sensation of falling, tumbling through the air and stars and time. It was a trap, and our people were too blind to see it. So she's hearing the hologram. Eons and stars and darkness plunged around her. The Fae clawed at the stone, tearing their nails on rock where there had once been a door. But the way back was now forever sealed, and they begged as they tried to pass their children through the solid wall, if only their children could be spared. Light flashed, blinding. When it cleared, she stood in a white stoned palace. And then that was the queen's palace, of course. And then Elain is like, you have the harp.
Yeah.
Bitch.
Yeah.
Such bonds are foolish. Darkness erupted, unmoving, solid darkness, slamming into Nesta as hard as a wall. The screams still echoed. And then, of course, we have Cassian pulling her out of it. He bellowed and bellowed and bellowed and bellowed and bellowed.
Have some respect for Cassian, ma'am.
Took him a while.
He was
Whereas with Hunt and fucking Rhys, it was just not enough.
Nesta was insistent on going in there by herself, and you know it. And she could only go in there by herself because of the magic.
Because Cassian couldn't. Because they're not equals.
Reading way too into it. Absolutely not.
No. Yeah, so that was that. And then I gotta flip back to the other one. Okay, so this is the one that I got really, really excited about. And I think you're gonna get really, really excited about too. And I don't know if you saw the chat earlier because I was freaking out about it. Did you see the chat earlier?
I did not. I was like kind of in and out during the day, but I didn't really read all of it.
I was like, okay. This is when Cassian is first showing them the 8-pointed star, which I think he learned from Tanwyn, because I think that the Dust Court, I think that was kind of like connected to the Valkyries, and I'll show you why after this. But Cassian stepped back, then said, "Show me the 8-pointed star." He nodded toward the blade. "Show me, Nesta." And this was after the fucking hike, and she's like trying to heft the sword, and she's fucking bawling. Nesta lifted the sword and executed a perfect arcing slash. Her weight shifted to her legs just as she flipped the blade, leading with the hilt, and brought her arm up against an invisible blow. Another shift, and the sword swept down, a brutal slash that would have sliced an opponent in half. Each slice was perfect. Like that 8-pointed star was stamped on her very heart.
I love that. Dust Court.
I told you! The star is heart! Cormac's fucking prophecy, bitch! Cormac's fucking prophecy!
Read it again. Read that last sentence.
Each slice was perfect, like the 8-pointed star was stamped on her very heart. Heart! You know I have something here. You know it. Because you kept saying that it wasn't on her heart and it wasn't in her chest, and I proved you wrong.
I did say that, and I still stand by it. I swear to you, if she makes Korsta happen,
you owe me so much shit.
I owe you so much, but also I will be so shocked. I will be more shocked that Korsta happens than Azriel happens. Okay, like that's how unconvinced I am about Cormac and Nesta.
Okay, so I do have some days where I'm like you, and I'm like, oh, I'm so delusional, that's never gonna happen. But then, like, I think about it again, and I think about the word marks, and I think about how he died, and then I think about how he didn't see his soul, and I think about his prophecy, and I'm like, it's all fucking lining up. And SJM isn't one to just leave a giant thing, like how like the Fae in the Stone, right? How we were like, what the fuck, the Fae in the Stone? She followed it up. Weird. Fast. We got the whole story with the hologram. Why did she give Cormac fucking word marks? I will not let this go. She did it.
So, like, how convinced are we that those are actually word marks and not just like some badass, like,
strange symbols? That's what they're called. And then we saw the Underking, the strange symbols. And then he explained, that's Erd. Her name was Word. Those are word marks.
Yeah, he did.
It's on Cormac. They're on Cormac. And especially, I'm going to keep fucking talking about this. How he says, like, I've been studying since I was a child in the archives. I know all about our original world. I know all about their magic. She would not, like, he would not die with all that information. I cannot see it. I can't see it.
So I don't know. I could see it. I could totally see it. I like, she even talked about that in that interview with Christina Lauren. I thought, didn't she, like,
No.
someone was like, is Cormac really dead? And I thought she was like, yes.
No, they said Connor, not Cormac. They said, is Connor really dead?
I did like your theory where you said that the Illyrians also have the word mark tattoos, that's what's like on every one of them in their bodies, which would make more sense to me if like they're word mark tattoos. I don't know. I cannot see a purpose for Cormac coming back. I know that sounds really awful because I loved him. I love his character.
You need a battery, like Bryce and Hunt. Who is Nesta's battery? Ain't nobody in fucking Prithian.
Could be Cassian. We don't know.
It is not Cassian. Cassian looked at the fucking sun and equated it to the Night Court. He's not all there.
Watch your mouth, girlfriend. He's super there. Listen, Cassian is usually very emotionally intuitive. He's very smart. I've been thinking about your problem.
I saw a comment the other day and they go, we're really supposed to believe this guy who has rocks for brains is Lady Death's mate. I don't think so.
He doesn't have rocks for brains. He's just easygoing. There's two different things. That's completely different.
No, he's a skilled general. But other than that, he has nothing up there but war strategy. All he reads is war books. He's just
war strategy is very difficult, Melanie. I almost called you Nesta. But also I've been thinking a lot about like SJM having Cassian be trained as like an emissary or as a courtier, which is what she was kind of doing. Well, he was training. He's learning. People are beginners. So I think that she did that because I truly think Cassian and Nesta are both going to leave the Night Court and go to the Dust Court. And that's why why else would Rhys do that? Why? He knows they're about to leave.
No, he did it because Azriel was busy with Koshi. He did it because Azriel was way too overworked already. And he's like, fuck, I ain't going to do it because Farrah's pregnant. Because he would have done it if Farrah was pregnant, just like he did in Akawar when he went by himself to the continent to check out the Queen's castle there by himself. He didn't send Cassian.
Okay, but also that's my point is like he's known Cassian for like 500-600 years. They're technically really brothers, adopted brothers, right? He could have trained him at any point to do that, and so like suddenly now he's being trained. That's because he's gonna be Nesta's like
it was one mission.
Consort?
He's not training. Azriel was just busy. He's like, I need you to do this for me because Azriel is busy and Farrah's fucking pregnant. I'm not leaving. So it's you. Tag, you're it.
You're the only one.
What the fuck? All right, hello.
Hello.
It's the daytime.
I know.
It's so shocking.
I like filming in the day.
I love filming.
Personally.
It's nice.
Yeah, me too.
We should finish up the 8-pointed star stuff from last night and like the connected little thingies that I had, which I was fighting with you about Cormac again. And I do have more points that go with that, but I'll save that for later.
Okay.
Anyways, you know how this goes with it. You know how I said last night that I think the Dust Court was kind of like the original land of the Valkyries?
Yeah.
before they
I
had
know
like,
that's
their king or wherever they moved to.
yeah.
I might be able to prove it, maybe. So
Okay, because I
Cassian,
have a point against it. So go ahead.
Cassian is the one that teaches the girls the 8-pointed star. Remember?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Cassian is the one that had a Valkyrie general as a girlfriend.
Yep.
Back in the day. So this is chapter 44 of Akasif. And it's like a little thing. And I love how Sarah does this. She puts like the biggest fucking hints in like these little tiny paragraphs. And then just jumps to like sex scenes or jumps to whatever. And I'm like, what
goes right over it.
Why are you skirting right over that? So they're in training. And it says, someone remind me why this was a good idea, Gwen panted beside Nesta, sweat running along her face as they went over their basic sword work. Remind me too, Emery grunted. Nesta, too winded to speak, simply grunted with her. Now. Cassian chuckled and the sound raked itself down her body. He'd taken her hand in the library last night, leading her up to her room, his eyes still soft, but that had faded when he spied a copy of Gwen's chapters about the Valkyries on Nesta's desk. She'd been reading about them. She'd explained when he'd picked up the pages and leafed through them. So, what was that all about, Cassian? Was he just still grieving Tanwyn?
Mm-hmm.
Like
that's what I take
like
it as.
Lucian still grieves Jasminda?
Jasminda, yeah.
I really want her to be alive. I
Who?
know you hate that, but I do.
Tanwyn?
I
hate
think that she was his mate, honestly.
Why would you think that Tanwyn is his mate? He wouldn't be able to go on.
Why?
Like he would be so grieved if that was his
Baxian. Hello, Baxian.
But Baxian's like severely depressed. Like Cassian has never been that.
But he's going on. It's been 500 something years for Cassian, or 200 something, 300 something years.
It was like 300.
A while, yeah. And then there's this part, and I forget which chapter it's in because I just, screen capped the quote. And it says, Nesta smirked, if we are to be Valkyries born again, maybe we should combine the Illyrian and Valkyrie techniques. She'd meant it in jest, but the words rumbled through the space as if she'd spoken some great truth, something that made fate sit up. Azriel turned to them fully this time, eyes narrowed, like those shadows had whispered something to him. A chill breathed down Nesta's spine. Cassian stared into their faces like he beheld something he hadn't seen there before. At last he said thickly, today we learn the Illyrian techniques. He nodded to Gwen. Tomorrow you bring me whatever information you have on the Valkyries' style. It's an enormous amount, Gwen said. Meryl is writing a book on it. I could get you a copy of the current manuscript since it has the most of the information in one place. So Cassian was like,
No, I don't. I disagree.
You don't think that he's not terrified? Like they all fucking died last time.
Well, if we're going to go down that road, maybe that's why he was the most angry with her in Crescent City, is because he's having these flashbacks because of the Valkyries.
But it wasn't like a war though yet.
But he knows where it's going.
And then he saw the fucking manuscript and he was like, I don't know.
I don't think so. I think he's maybe nervous and has like flashbacks and PTSD from it.
Yeah, but that's why I feel like if Nesta was his mate, I feel like he would be way more against it and way more possessive.
No, I don't think so, because look at Feyre and Rhys, like they still trained Feyre. Feyre still came and granted, she didn't really fight in any of the wars, even though she had all those powers.
Yeah, Rhys was like, you're not fighting. So
they still trained her. Nesta hasn't gone through a war yet. He trained her. So I disagree. I don't think so.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think so. And also, well, is there more to your theory about this?
So I don't have all of the things that I said on the chat the other day, but basically I also had another theory video, which fuck, I meant to do that one too, but I forgot another time. But basically I was explaining that the scene when he's talking about the old Valkyries, and I've said this before, and how they like went through the past and their bodies were never found or whatever, and how I said that I honestly don't think they're dead. I think they went through a fucking portal.
I hate this theory so fucking much.
No, because think about it. Because if Nesta's going to be Queen of Dusk, who's going to be her people? If there are people trapped in the stone, who's trapped in the stone? It's not the same people with the kids or whatever that was in the prison. Who else is in the stone? Because there are people in the stone in Ramiel, people in the stone in the prison. Who's to say the Valkyries are not in the stone in the Gullian Mountains? Who's going to be her people? Like, who's going to live in the Dust Court? If it's going to be the court of the Valkyries because of the 8-pointed star, that's where he learned it. That's where he had to have learned it.
The 8-pointed star.
And his reaction to it, and not only his reaction to it, but Azriel's reaction to it. Where
what
the
was
shadows
Azriel's
were whispering about.
Is it the one that you just read to us?
Mm-hmm.
His reaction there where they were like looking on their faces and it was like they hadn't seen something there.
Yeah. The words rumbled through the space as if she'd spoken some great truth, something that made fate sit up. Azriel turned to them fully this time, eyes narrowed like his shadows had whispered something to him. And we know that Azzy is Dust Court.
I wonder, like, what would his shadows have whispered to him? I'm just like curious. I like want to know, like, what do you think it would have been? Like there's the next batch of Valkyries. Yeah. I think that's what he was saying. I do like that you caught that the 8-pointed star was Cassian's move that he was teaching Nesta.
It's a Valkyrie technique.
It is a Valkyrie technique. So I wonder if did Tanwyn or the Valkyries and the Illyrians must have been training like together a lot.
No. That's what I was gonna bring up. I don't have the quote again, but we've said it before. But there is a scene where Cassian is explaining that and during that war, the Illyrians fought, obviously, he was on the Illyrian side, and the Valkyries fought. And he saw that the Valkyries were like getting pumped, like fucking dying and shit, and he wanted to help, and the Illyrians would not let them help female soldiers. Like, they would not let him help, so much so that they fucking tied him up so he couldn't.
I know.
And I think that's where part of his guilt comes in, because like he couldn't save Tanwyn when they went through the pass, but she definitely taught him that, and I think he started using it because of that.
Oh, I see. I love Cassian. When you say it like that, I'm like,
that's why I want fucking Tanwyn to be his mate and not Nesta, because they don't vibe. Like, the way that he talks about Tanwyn, he has never spoken about Nesta romantically like that. Openly. He hasn't.
What exactly did he say about Tanwyn? I don't feel like it was very romantic. It was like
her smile was like a storm, and she was so fierce, and like he was going on and on about Tanwyn, but he'll never say like, oh, isn't Nesta so beautiful, or oh, isn't Nesta so strong? Like, never. He's never said that shit about Nesta.
Like, I agree with you on that, but I don't feel like he was like really talking about Tanwyn that much. It was like a 2-3 sentence thing.
That's what SJM does with dead people often, like fucking Mama and Papa Artron now.
Yeah, it was like a 3 sentence. So I don't feel like he was like, it was like this, but like overly
but again, there was the whole scene about like how he was like fucking vomiting because he couldn't help them because they tied him up and they wouldn't fucking let him fight with them, and trauma. And this is why I get upset at Akasif, because as much as Cassian is not my favorite character, I liked him as an individual. I do not like him as Nesta's mate, but I like him as an individual. And I was pissed off that in his point of views, we didn't get like anything of his past except for those little tiny clues.
Yeah.
Which I guess you can say again that SJM is just dragging it out into the next books, because Dusk Court, if they're connected to the Dusk Court, that kind of makes sense. But if it was Nesta and Cassian's book, should have been a little more in Cassian's book.
I would agree with that. I do feel like she did Cassian like a really big disservice. She didn't like explore a lot. But I think that the bonus chapter at the end of CC3 is kind of a telling place, right? Because we have a lot of strife there with Cassian and Nesta. So I think everything you just said is possibly about to be answered in the next ACOTAR book, right?
But that's what confuses me. Because why, if it's going to focus on Gwenriel and they're going to have the Valkyrie whatever subplot, then that does mean that I'm right and the Dusk Court is Valkyries.
I think that yeah. I mean, like that would make the most sense.
But Cassian,
but here's my problem with that,
because it wouldn't be his book. Like he would be there, obviously, but like it would be Azriel's book because he's Dusk Court, and Nesta's book because she's Dusk Court now.
Well, and that's another thing that I'm not quite sure how SJM is going to do this, because here she is dropping all these like Easter eggs of like an Elriel, of all this stuff. Like she makes no inclination of going back to Cassian and Nesta. The problem is she left us on a cliffhanger with Cassian, Nesta, and Rhys. So some things not adding up. I honestly don't think
He left us
will know.
on a cliffhanger with Nesta, not Cassian. That's
No.
what I've been saying.
Nesta and Cassian are one and the same. You have to take. It's not just going to be about Nesta. It's about Nesta and Cassian because she's her mate.
Is not.
Yes,
not after
is.
that bonus
Yes,
chapter. It ain't.
Yes, it is. That's the whole thing. Is they're going to be fighting, and then they're going to start exploring Cassian's past a little bit more. And I bet we'll find out more about Cassian.
Well, I also.
That's why he's being such a jerk.
Well, I've said I also pay a lot of attention to the specific wording that SJM uses with her mates, because again, mating bond is not really used with Cassian and Nesta like it is for even Lucian and Phazand and Quinlar and fucking all these other mates. And not just that, but there's the scene after the bonus chapter in Hofas where, you know, he was reading the manuscript and she was crying over Ember and all of that stuff, where you're like, see, he's so good and he gave them space or whatever. But there was the wording with Bryce, and we know that Bryce, well, yeah, we basically know that Bryce can puzzle things out. So the way that she looked at them and she said, oh, and a male that could have been Nesta's mate, or he smelled like her or something like that. Like, yeah, but they can smell like each other just after they've had sex. Like Lydia smelled like Rune to Pollux after they fucking, you know, got together. Yes, they're mates, but like even before Feyre accepted the mate bond, Amren knew from Rhys's scent. So there's that. But the fact that she was like, could have been Nesta's mate.
No,
the wording is weird. The wording is weird.
You're reading too much into it. I think
I'm not.
She wrote Bryce like that because she wanted it to seem like convincing. Like, how would Bryce be like, that's definitely his mate? Like, she's from a different world. She's not used to like smelling mating bonds or whatever. Like,
but then what's the
excuse
for Akasif and her using that thing between them, the threads between them, the writhing thing in her chest, like
that? It's the same. It's the same language. They have threads. They have silvery golden threads, just like
thread
Phazand does. Well, but if you look at the bonds all throughout ACOTAR, none of them are actually the same. So Phazand's bond is different than Lucian's bond, which is different than Nessian's bond.
They're not different. The only thing is that Feyre and Rhys prefer to use their Daemati powers.
Yeah.
But Rhys
So
has used the bond, like when he said that she yelled down the bond during the wedding. It wasn't him. He couldn't Daemati her from there.
yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
And how like Lucian ran from the shore because he felt Elaine's distress. We don't fucking get that with Nessian ever. He never shows up when she's in distress. Ever. Ever. He doesn't know when it's going to happen. He doesn't know if it's going to happen. He doesn't show up when it happens. It's fucking
I'm trying to think.
It doesn't happen. He can't feel her. That's the biggest clue to me out of everything. That is always the biggest clue to me because it's fucking glaring that he cannot feel her. Because sure, people could be like, oh, because it's Maid and she's more powerful than him or whatever. But Lucian could feel Elain. So that's not, they were both dumped in the cauldron.
But we also don't know that Aleutian, and I know you're going to hate me for this, and just to be clear, like I'm an Aleutian shipper 100%, and I want them to be together. We don't know that that's a real bond. And I think
yes, we do. Yes, we do. Lucian traveled down the bond to her end of it.
He says it was like a rib. She was like, "Ooh, you're like tugging my rib." It wasn't a heart. It was the rib. That's different. It's totally different.
I'm pretty sure Elain and Rowan was the rib too.
I'm not that far, so I don't know, but
well, I know. And it's a bond.
and it was the rib, Rowan and Elain.
Yeah, I think it was in. Was it Queen? I just finished Queen of Shadows, so it must have been Queen of Shadows. Something like, oh, like the lower rib cage, or like between. I don't know. I forget what the fucking wording was, but I was like, oh, that sounds like Aleutian.
I don't know. I just think that we can't take Aleutian and Phase and then pop Nessie in the middle and be like, all right, compare the three, because we don't even know that Aleutian is a true bond. Like truly, you and I, you and I think it is.
They're fucking mates. How many times does she have to say it? That's like people still saying that fucking Bryce and Hunt aren't mates. They're fucking mates. Give it a rest. It's been how many books? How many books? Fucking Akamath. If they were not mates, it would have come out by now, or she would have fucking rejected it. Let's be real.
I don't think so. I think she's going to torture us. This is SJM. She's torturing totally. Because, okay, then explain to me why she put guilty as sin as the thought. Like, it doesn't make sense. And that's
I did a whole video on that.
I watched your video. It's an Azriel song.
No, it is not.
It's totally, I mean,
mine is a mate word. That is not an affair word. The Azriels love to fucking twist shit, and I cannot stand it. They're mates.
I'm not an Azriel. I'm an illusion. But I'm telling you, like, you can't ignore what she's putting out there.
No, I can ignore what people are twisting it into.
Yeah, you could totally ignore what people, like, maybe she's putting it out there just to mess with us so that we're all super surprised.
And again, the interview where she said, I was pleasantly surprised when I wrote Elain and Lucian. They have a lot of healing to do together. She said that, oh, this is what they would do on a couples trip in the real world. She has never once swayed from that discourse.
But that was like a couple years ago at this point, right? She hasn't really spoken much on.
That was ACOWAR.
It's been a while.
But ACOWAR wasn't their book.
And she is notorious for changing her mind. She's notorious, especially after this last book.
I don't think she really changed. Again, I think that was just Hofas. I think that was just what was going on in her personal life, but that's whatever.
Yeah.
Let me see what else.
I had wanted to bring something up to you. Now I can't. Okay. So my thing with Cassian, I know that you're like, oh, the Cassian, the Valkyrie thing, Tana is his mate, blah, blah, blah. So if the Valkyries were related to the Dust Court, my only thing is that like everyone would have known about the Dust Court if they knew about the Valkyries. Do you know what I mean?
Well, no, because that's kind of like how only Lydia knew about Brannon in Crescent City, but she didn't know about Elain. Like, I feel like it's like a generational thing, and especially after Rhys said, like, oh, a lot of the history's been lost, and like it was only through word of mouth, and like people forgot to pass it on to their kids or whatever. And then Azriel says this in Hofast, like, oh, it must not have been passed down to Rhys because he has no idea. So I think it was like the original Valkyries were part of the Dust Court, and then when the Dust Court like all left and then it got smothered by the monsters or whatever, I think whoever was left just kind of, you know, found a place on the continent or found whatever where there was a king, and then the king was like, okay, you can just stay here. And then through the generations it was just like, oh, they have their own king, and like the Dust Court was kind of lost anyway from the history as we know.
Yeah. I was actually thinking about that. I'm like, could the Valkyries have been from Valahan, or one of we have like 3 new Fey continents that
Valhalla, Valahan, I know.
So I'm actually thinking that maybe that they are from there. Personally,
that's why more is suspicious to me, because like I know, we've been saying that we think she's a witch, and I do think that she's a witch, but I do think she knows more about the Valkyries than she's letting on to, because in Akafas, when I love this scene, when I think Akasif, I forget, Akasif, when Lucian shows up for Solstice and they're talking about like what they're going over or whatever, and they were talking about the Valkyrie technique and all of this, and then someone's like, oh, well, so what exactly is Nesta learning or whatever? And she's like, she's learning how to disembowel a male. And it's like Lucian went pale. So, and then Moore's like, maybe I'll join you.
I think that the Valkyries are from the continent. I think maybe we'll explore more of that in the next book.
Fucking it's gonna be part, like, if she makes it part of Moore's story, I'm gonna be so mad.
I think it is going to be part of her story.
Fucking. If Moore was one of the Valkyries, I'm gonna be kind of pissed.
No, Moore was not a Valkyrie. There's no way. That Moore's her own thing.
Her own thing. Sure. Moore's her own thing.
We don't know what exactly, but that's her own thing.
And then I had 2 little side points, which were very interesting to me, and I don't know whether they directly connect or not, because you know how we were saying that like we had a lot of Nesta and we had a lot of Gwen, but we didn't really have a lot of Emery. I wonder, we have to have more about Emery, so I wonder if there's going to be some sort of book, and I do not want it to be Moore's book. I think Moore's is actually going to be more in Eris, as I said, but I feel like we need more from Emery. But this scene with Gwen always kind of makes me not question her, because I know that she's good, but it makes me think of Eris. Like I said, how I think Eris is a bloodhound, and how I thought Gwen was his daughter. And I've said multiple times, like, her power only crackles around Nesta. Eris's power only crackled around Nesta. And then she scented Deirdre from like 2 floors below, and Eris scented more on the wind. And like, so there's a lot of those little father-daughter connections, but I don't know if this was a nod to that, or if this was a nod to like a Valkyrie thing. I don't know, but I'm gonna read it and I want to know what you think.
Okay.
All right. So this is when Gwen and Nesta are in the library, and Nesta has to shelve that book, and the darkness below is thrumming, right? Her name drifted to her as if rising from the depths of some black ocean. Nesta. It slid along her bones, her blood. She had to pull back, pull away. The darkness pulsed, beckoning. Nesta. She whirled, nearly dropping the book over the edge. Gwen was standing there, eyeing her. What are you doing? Heart thundering, Nesta twisted toward the darkness, but it was only that, murky darkness, though, through which she could now barely make out the sublevels beneath, as if the thick, impenetrable black had vanished. Gwen only asked gravely, what did you see? Why, Nesta asked, do you see things in that darkness? Her voice was thin. No, but some of the others do. They say the dark has trailed them right to their doors. I saw darkness, Nesta managed to say. Her heart would not calm. Pure darkness, the likes of which she had not seen since she'd been inside the cauldron. Gwen glanced between Nesta and the chasm below. We should go higher. Nesta lifted the book, still in her shaking arms. I need to shelve this. So this is where it gets weird with Gwen. Leave it, Gwen said, enough authority lacing her words that Nesta dropped the book onto a dark wood table. So, authority voice. That reminds me of Lucian. But if Gwen is Eris's only child, I know that technically females can't take over courts, but if she's a Valkyrie, I don't know. So that was my first little what? The priestess put a hand to Nesta's back, escorting her up the sloping ramp. Don't look behind you, Gwen muttered out of the corner of her mouth. What level is your cart on? 4. She began to twist her head to gaze over her shoulder, but Gwen pinched her. Don't look behind you, she murmured again. Is it following? No, but I can feel something, like a cat. Small and clever and curious. It's watching. If you're joking. Gwen reached into the pocket of her pale robe and pulled out the blue stone of the priestesses. It fluttered with light like the sun on a shallow sea. Hurry now, she whispered, and they increased their pace, reaching the 5th level. No other priestesses approached. There was no one to witness Gwen urging, keep going. The stone in her hand glimmered. They made another loop upward, and just as they reached the 4th level, that presence, that sensation of something at their backs, finally eased. They waited until they'd reached Nesta's cart before Gwen dumped her books on the ground and flung herself into the nearest tufted armchair. Her hands were trembling, but the blue stone had gone dormant once again.
Lots going on there. So what are you thinking?
I don't know. I don't know if the fucking... Do we think that's still Adis? I don't know.
It's absolutely Adis. And you want to know what?
It's absolutely Adis.
Thinking about it again, I think the shadow that Moore felt watching her was Adis.
But
it has to be Adis.
See, there's a difference because in Hofas it wasn't Adis, it was Apollyon.
It was both of them. It was both. I just read that part again.
So is it Adis and Apollyon? Because Apollyon would be the darkness, the pure darkness.
I think Adis is watching more. I think
But this is in the library. This isn't more.
I know, and that was Adis too. It was a cat. It's all Adis. He's traveling around the world. Like there's something going on.
I don't think.
And it's suspicious that Gwen knows that it's Adis. Like that Gwen knows it's like a cat. I do think that's a little.
I don't.
Sus.
Okay, so I don't think the sleeping thing that Moore saw was a Prince of Hell because again, she says that it seemed like familiar somehow, and unless she's a Queen of Hell, I don't know what the.
But she also knows Thanatos lives in
sleepy shadow.
Lives in the court in Hewn City. It seems familiar. I'm telling you, it's Adis. So here's my thing.
But in this scene, the darkness, I think, is Apollyon and not Adis. Maybe they were together.
Yeah. So they could be together. And what we don't know
is together. They're like the best friends. It's like Rhys and Cassie.
I know. They are.
Adis and Apollyon are like fucking Rhys and Cassie, and they're like the bros. And then they're like fucking Thanatos, like fucking Azriel.
So are they there to rescue Thanatos or get him out from Hewn City?
Why
like
are they in the library? The pit. I swear to God. I swear there's an opening to hell at the bottom of the fucking House of Wind. I'm convinced that's a fucking
There
gate.
has to be. There has to be. There has to be. And that's where they're coming from, and they're making their way to Hewn City, and they're trying to get Thanatos out because there's like a war going on everywhere.
And
so they need him.
That's how Meryl gets to Crescent City, the priestess sent behind Erd's temple. Some of the priestesses do. Oh, like Meryl? Like your boss? What did you read in her research, Gwen? Why are you so terrified right now?
Yeah, they know a lot more than they're talking about in the book.
Gwenny!
But
I don't need to know what she does. Yeah. I need to know what she knows.
I know.
Trembling. She was trembling. And then she explains how that's her invoking stone. And again, blue stone.
I love it.
And then it says, we cannot use it for harm, only for healing and protection. Healing and protection. Which is a little odd because healing magic in a way when raw and potent can kill a Belg. But that's just a thing that I was thinking of. It was shielding us. No, I mean the darkness. Gwen's eyes matched her stone almost perfectly, right down to the shadows that now veiled her expression. They say the being that dwelled down there is gone, Bryaxis. I swear Bryaxis is a hell creature that they put there to guard the gate. But I believe some piece of it might have lingered, or at the very least altered the darkness itself. It didn't feel like that. It felt older. Gwen's brows rose. Are you adept in such things? There was no condescension in the words, only curiosity. Nesta blinked. Do you not know who I am? I know you were the High Lady's sister, that you slew the King of Highburn, that you, like Lady Pharaoh, were once mortal, human. And then she's like, you killed him with the Shadow Singer's knife. I love that so much. You have no idea. I'm not gonna fangirl though.
I love it. You can fangirl if you want.
My other sister Elain was forced into the cauldron and turned high fae. It imparted some of itself to me. Gwen considered the railing, the open drop into the darkness beyond it. Like calls to like. Yes. Perhaps don't go down to level 6 again. 6? Like 666? SJM?
I know.
That was hilarious. Anyway, but I had to point that. I thought it was weird. Like, if she never fucking brings that up again, I'm gonna be so pissed off. That and Thanatos, I'm gonna be so pissed off.
Girl, you and me both. Because there's so, but also like Bryaxis. Where's Bryaxis? When are we gonna see? When are we gonna see
escaped their
Bryaxis?
world. I think it's Azriel. Azriel says that again. Fucking Azriel, where he says, "Perhaps it escaped this world." What the fuck, bitch? What do you know? Azriel. Perhaps it escaped this world. I swear to God, dude.
So then where did it go? What world is it going to go back to Crescent City? Is it going to go to Tog?
Maybe it just went back to hell.
You know what? Or hell? Or are we going to see Bryaxis in the Minorian book? Because we all know. I haven't even read that part, and we know it's Minorian.
What species is Bryaxis? That's what I want to know. Is he a Crystallos demon? Because that's what I originally thought. But then they're like clear. They're not really black. And then I was like, okay, there's the Crystallos, there's the Ritterak, there's the Ilkin, there's all these other creepy things. Like, what the fuck is Bryaxis?
But Bryaxis can like shapeshift. He's almost like he's like a living nightmare, kind of. Like that's what he seems like to me.
I was gonna say, what if Bryaxis? I don't think you've gotten this far, god damn it. What if Bryaxis is a Stygian spider?
I have not gotten that far.
They can like change their forms. Yeah. Ugh, I hate spiders so much.
I know I've read about them, and I've read about the spider silk, but I've yet to like see one or like read about it in detail yet.
Stygian spiders originate from the Valg homeworlds, where they were created by the Valg Queen Maeve, the pick that Rhys owns, and served as her handmaidens for thousands of years while the 3 Valg kings waged war. Maeve revealed herself, married the Valg king, blah, 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 blah. She was not content with him and learned how to cross through word gates to other worlds. She found Aurelia. Highly intelligent and are capable of human speech. They engage in business with those who seek them out and are experienced hagglers.
They engage with those who seek them out. That's exactly what Feyre did.
Yeah.
She sought them out.
Spiders can take abstract things from those who bargain with them. They can magically acquire things such as beauty, age, and dreams.
Yeah, that sounds like that.
The name Stygian in Halha means shadows.
Oh,
All Stygian spiders are female, though. So the fact that they were calling Bryaxis a he. The areas surrounding Stygian spider dwellings are filled with normal-sized spiders seeking to protect their large magical cousins. Just like they fucking said, perhaps a part of it still lingered.
interesting. But then I wonder if we would have.
Spiders. That would have
we would have
fucking
seen
freaked out Cassian. Oh, spider the size of a fucking horse? I would die.
A massive spider. Is that what he's so scared of? Is that why he was like,
would die? And all the little baby spiders are.
But Cassian does not like spiders. You know, that makes me love him even more, just like knowing that he didn't like the spider.
A horse-sized spider. I can't. Bryaxis had to be a Stygian spider.
I honestly think that Bryaxis was a Stygian spider. What if like Bryaxis though is like, I know it's all females, but what if there's like one male and it's Bryaxis and he's like guarding the portal?
Right? Cyrene, 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 was a Stygian spider that possessed the ability to shift, presumably because she had done a deal with the shapeshifter Falcon Enar in Tog. Manon Blackbeak pushed her and her guards off a cliff, but she survived by turning into something that could fly. She took 20 years from Falcon Enar, but he later regained his years after she was killed. But was she killed? Dorian Havillard killed her because he sensed her Valcor. She eventually turned out to be a spy for Maeve. Blah, 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 blah. So they can make deals with shapeshifters. To become shapeshifters.
Yeah.
Huh.
Take a couple of years off of 20 years and you get their abilities.
That's interesting.
Very
what other secrets do you have, Azriel? Shadows? She turned into shadows? Like,
I mean, Azriel would know because he's a shadow seer. It's funny because if there's anyone that would know what the bottom of the pit of the library would be, it would be Azriel. And in fact,
he knows fucking everything.
He knows everything, but you know what? He does know what's at the bottom of the pit. He has to.
Okay, but this goes to my theory that Rhys is from Maeve's line. Because Maeve created the fucking spiders as her guards and spies.
As her guards.
Fucking Rhysand. But see, the thing with that is that they make spider silk, and Manon actually used the spider silk to patch up Abraxos's wings so he could fly again. And I'm wondering if I'm gonna have to go back and look, but wasn't there something about the way that Azriel's wing scars shined or something in the sun?
I do not remember that, but I need to know it right now.
I thought there was, because when Abraxos flies and he has like the spider silk or whatever, they're like, and that spider silk like shimmered on his wings or stuff like that. I'm like, wasn't there a fucking scene with Az where his wings were backdropped and like Ferris says something similar to that?
Okay, was this when they were on the hill and he was like teaching her to fly?
Was it then or was it on the ice? I don't remember.
All right, let's look. Let's look it up.
Fuck!
So, it's Akamath though, right? Is it Akamath or Akawar?
Akamath or Akawar, one of them.
So hold up. Also, who else had their wings shredded to almost never being used again?
Hello, Maja the healer. Is that why she's so old? Was she making all of those bargains with fucking Bryaxis?
With freaking Stygian spiders? Maja. Let's see.
That's why she's still alive and is an elderly fae, because every time she makes a bargain, she gets 20 years or some shit.
That would be crazy.
Bro, that's why she's so old.
Or like Maja's actually not that old. She just kept like bargaining and
Yeah,
like now she looks old.
exactly.
I love this part too.
Yeah.
Amren just continued cleaning her nails with a tiny bone. I realized, touch me, Cassie, and I'll remove your favorite part, as small as it might be.
I love that so much.
He let out a low chuckle, standing between them in the sparring ring.
Oh my god.
I love Cassian. I just love him. Oh, and I wanted to talk about Nesta's hike with you in a minute when we were done, because I have a different perspective on it too.
The Shadow Singer had a sense of humor, dry and quiet, but alone together it came out far more often than it did among our group. I love him so much. I love how he's always sharpening truth teller. Like it's like his little like
I know.
I had that highlighted with a note that said "Ho fast?" ?
What?
Azriel sharpening truth teller. I was like, there's something with this fucking knife. It's made.
I love it. That's amazing. Hey, wait, did Feyre learn how to fly after she met the Mortal Queens or before?
I don't know. I'm on chapter 29. It's chapter 29 is one of it, part of it.
No, I'm
before that because she starts off with that pine tree wasn't there a moment ago. Azriel let out a quiet laugh.
Okay,
judging by its size, I'd say it's been there for at least 200 years. I love him so much. I love him so much.
Was Azriel laughing at that?
He's like, she was like, that pine tree wasn't there before. He's like, judging from its size, it looks like it's been there for 200 years. He also like adjusts his wings and like rustles his wings a lot, which Abraxas also does. I think it's so cute.
Does he?
Also, keep in mind that Azriel's wings were healed by Maja after they escaped the Hybern camp.
Were they?
Mm-hmm. Rhys winnowed into our path before we'd made it past the first line of tents. His eyes went right to Azriel's wings, then to the wound in my shoulder. And they're like, you need to get him to Maja.
Okay, also, can we just mention how chapter 27 is literally like Rhys used Feyre as bait and she like called him out on it basically. Yeah. And he knew it too. Like he was just sorry, I just forget that he did that.
It says
and here, Feyre acknowledges the King of Hybern wants her. Don't forget that. Akamath chapter 27. I can't find it.
Tamlin was right about my safety.
Yeah.
No fucking shit.
Yeah.
Azriel's wings spread, dark reds and golds shining through in the bright sun, and he opened his arms to me.
Oh, reds and blues?
Reds and golds.
Gold. Oh, but the spider stuff is silvery.
The pine forest will be good, the one by the lake. Why? Because water is better to fall into than hard rock, Cassian said. I let Azriel scoop me up, his scent of night-chilled mist and cedar wrapping around me as he flapped his wings once, stirring the dirt of the courtyard. Mist and cedar, again.
Interesting. Azriel.
Let me look up spider silk real quick, just to make sure I'm right. Of all their unique traits, Stygian spiders are probably best known for producing spider silk. This material is lightweight yet extraordinarily durable, extremely strong, and gleams faintly in the sunlight. It doesn't say silver.
Gleams faintly in the sunlight?
Gleams faintly in the sunlight. Obtaining this precious material comes at a high cost. The spiders do not trade their silk for gold, but for much less tangible and more valuable things like dreams, memories, youth, beauty, and souls. Maja.
Well, what did Feyre do? Feyre literally made a bond with Thriaxis, did she not?
She's like, oh, I want a window. You know what? It was a window to another world. Twisted the wording. No, the bargains. You can fuck with the wording.
You can? Is that really in talk? Oh, I didn't know
No. In Akatar. Remember, Rhys is like, or Alice is like, you never make a bargain because anyone can like twist it.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, I want a window. What kind of window? She never asked.
Well, I thought she said to look out into the night sky. Remember, like Bryax had this whole monologue where she was looking.
Sky can also be space. Technically.
If you could, I guess you could interpret it like that.
Spider silk is in high demand. The market price is generally astronomical. They take abstract things from those who bargain with them. They also possess a venom that is stored in their fangs. All Stygian spiders are female. Dang. I don't know. I think it's funny if Praxis was a female and she's just like, whatever.
Yeah, no. I don't know.
I mean, like, I've been stuck here in this hole for thousands of years. Just get me out.
Just give me a window, guys. That's all I care about. Just give me a window.
Give me a fucking window. Okay, so the merchant named Falcon Enar bargained with the Stygian spiders in the northern continent for 100 yards of spider silk in exchange for 20 years of his life. Maja! I swear. Is that what she's repairing their wings with?
Is that Cassian? He was pretty badly hurt there. Very badly hurt.
Yeah, it says gleams in the sunlight. It doesn't say silver. I thought it said silver. It does not say
I thought it said silver too. So it just gleams.
Yeah, dark reds and golds shined through in the bright sun. Gleamed with red and gold.
It said gleamed?
Really? Today, focus on lifting and folding your wings, spreading and lifting. Azriel's wings gleamed with red and gold as the sun gilded them. Like this, he demonstrated, flaring his wings wide and tucking them in, flaring, angling, tucking them in over and over.
I mean, it's definitely a good possibility.
All right. Anyways, what did you want to ask?
Okay. So, well, I have a statement. I was thinking, I know that we are currently mad at Cassian for obvious reasons. I still have a very soft spot for him. I know that one of your things was like the hike, right? Like you were really angry about the hike and like how he treated her and like why she went on a hike and blah, 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 blah. So I was
thinking other ways of getting people to break down than literally fucking actually breaking their body.
So, but what I wanted to say is that, you know, I was thinking about, because I'm definitely like a Nesta, like I get Nesta completely, but I have to get to a breaking point typically, like physically, emotionally, like I have to go do something like very difficult or distracting in order to like feel like I'm healing myself. Like I used to hike all the time when I was very upset.
Yeah, but it's your choice.
I think that Cassian knew that like that's how Nesta, because she like punishes herself, right? So she like when she's upset,
yeah, but he was punishing her. He did it solely to punish her.
She was also self-punishing in that moment. He knew what she was gonna do. She was doing it,
and he still did it.
And he went along with it, and he accompanied her to it. I would say if he was like, "Go take a hike,"
Here's the thing. I wouldn't have had a problem with it if he was actually fucking encouraging. He did not even look at her. He was punishing.
He gave her silence to battle her inner thoughts and her inner demons.
And he still had no idea she was about to pass out through that main bond.
Which is what she needed. Granted, I understand what you're saying, yes, and that is concerning.
Do we think that, I don't know, there's a part of me that feels like he treats Nesta the way that he would have treated Tanwyn, because she was already a Valkyrie when he knew her, and she was already training and already a general and already like all of this stuff. So I feel like she put all of this stuff into praxis already. And I don't know, I feel like he's just treating Nesta like she can handle it the way that Tanwyn did, not really putting any stock in like she has never been a warrior before, and you can't go that hard on somebody like that to begin with.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I would. I don't know if that's what he's doing. I don't know, but
I feel like
do.
if like I don't know, I kind of feel like if Tanwyn had a bad day, she would just go on a hike and like
Yeah,
push herself through like
yeah,
that stuff. And so
yeah.
he's like, well, if you want to be a Valkyrie, this is what you're gonna have to do. And I think like that was his mind space, but at the same time, like him just not paying any attention to her was not the way to do it.
He's a little like tone deaf to how to take care of
little.
someone appropriately, but I don't think that the hike I don't think that the hike was a bad thing. I actually think that the hike was very therapeutic. I think it was really good for Nesta because she needed to focus all of that energy of hating herself for what she did on something that was physically going to
But
break
she
her.
wasn't healthy at the time. There's a difference.
She was totally healthy at the time. Yeah, she was eating up at the House of Wind. She was completely fine. She had been working out a little bit. Like she ate.
She wasn't
Girlfriend
eating.
ate.
She didn't eat for days. She didn't drink for days. He had no idea she was about to pass out. Her body was literally like she explains how excruciatingly everything was.
That's because she kind of does it to herself. Like she also had every opportunity. You have to think of it this way, be like, Cassian, I'm hungry. Cassian, I need to stop. Cassian, I need more water.
She was definitely self-sabotaging, but the thing is, he didn't ask either.
No, he didn't. But it's not that he didn't ask, it's that everyone has a problem with the fact that they went on a hike and like his treatment during that hike.
Because he didn't care during the hike. It would be different if he cared. If he encouraged her to eat nicely. Like you're not.
He cooked her 2 meals on those stupid leaves or whatever, or the plate. I don't know. And he like he did
Yum.
it. And he put it next
cooked
while she was
fish.
sleeping. He cooked those 2 meals, and you know it.
How much of a good cook is Cassian? Because I wouldn't have eaten that shit either. I would have rather died too.
He's supposed to be the best cook.
Yeah. I'm sure.
So I think that maybe the argument about like the problem with the hike can be diminished slightly. Like it doesn't hold as much weight because like she needs physical.
I know that she was self-punishing,
healing.
but again, the problem I have with the hike is that he didn't care and he purposely did it to punish her. He says it's her punishment. I'm punishing her for Rhys. It wasn't it's not I'm doing it for her own good. It's I'm doing it because Rhys wants me to punish her.
Well, okay, wait, but I think that you're assigning that to him because he just said that to Feyre.
He says that to Feyre in his own words.
To pacify Rhys. He says it to Feyre to pacify him.
Exactly.
But I don't think that that's truly what he means. I think it's just like it's just said.
He says
we've all said stuff like that.
He meant it.
Pacify people.
Yeah, but then okay. So I'm going to throw this back at you again because you never answer it. Then why the fuck didn't Cassian tell Nesta that Feyre wasn't mad at her when she asked him to? There's no answer.
I mean, it was a little manipulative on his part. I would agree with that.
Yeah, a little. Whole hike, she hated herself because she thought that Feyre was going to like literally hate her. And Feyre was like, please tell Nesta I'm only mad at Rhys. And I don't care why she told me, just that she told me. And I'm not mad at her. And then Cassian was like, did not tell her at all.
I mean, I don't have an answer for that. I'll admit.
And then he's like, well, Rhys is secretly pleased that you're going to punish her. He was like, oh, Rhys is pleased. Go crawl up his ass, Cassian.
I mean, he is his brother. I don't know. I think
my lord.
I think that this next
Azriel would have never. Azriel would have told her.
Azriel would have never either. Azriel, let's be real. Azriel's pretty much between the three of them the moral compass.
And you know what I realized, because someone pointed this out to me on one of my posts, how they were like, I'm shocked that Azriel didn't tell her about the baby because, he'll go against Rhys and all that stuff. But I said, remember, how busy he was in Akasif, how Rhys made a point to put everything on Azriel's plate. I think because he knew that if Azriel stopped long enough, if he had a break long enough to think about what was actually going on, he would have been like, what the fuck, I'm telling her. Azriel was like on missions almost that whole book. That's why Cassian became the courtier and all that stuff. Rhys did that on purpose because he knew that Azriel would have told her. And that's also why he told Lucien, yeah, you can stay in spring, because his eye would have fucking picked up on the wings, on the scent of she has an Illyrian child and it's gonna kill her. He purposely made Azriel stay away, and he purposely made Lucien stay away to keep the secret, because everyone else he can manipulate.
You know what? I do agree with that to a certain extent. I don't always think that Azriel straight up goes against him. I think Azriel does things like he does things passively against Rhys. So, like, hey, for example, letting Ember through the door. It's like he'll never go against him. Yeah, he'll never, but he's not gonna, like, he will never be like, no, Rhys, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that.
Well, Rhys Amren said that Rhys told Azriel not to spy on her. And she's like, oh, he still does. Like, I'd be shocked if he didn't. Like,
I love Azriel so much. But like okay, so like he would say something to Rhys, like, what you're doing is wrong, you should tell Feyre. But I don't think he would have gone to Feyre. I think he would have been like
when they voted on the weapons, and he was like, no, you need to tell her.
Yeah, like that's Azriel.
Cassian, only after Azriel said that, was like, yeah, Nesta should know. Oh, so because Azriel stuck up for your mate, now you're clear to stick up for her? You.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some issues there. There's a lot of toxic communication.
He is not going to be her consort. I swear to God.
It's funny because it's like anything. I truly feel like after Hofast, because Hofast was just like, I honestly think anything can go. I could see him dying. I could see him not being her mate, but I don't think it would be Cormac. I think she would just be like alone. I could see anything happening. Because SJM completely went against all of the mating bonds, like with Hunt in a way, like because he was so different, you know, or in the language, everything was different. But I think it could go anyway, either way.
Can I also? I found a quote from Tog last night.
Yeah.
And it reminded me of something. So,
okay.
Stay with me here, because I know you're not going to like it, but stay with me here.
If it's Cormac one more time.
So, Phazan, right? Their first, well, not really first, but their big smutty scene. Feyre glows, and like their power is shared with one another. And then obviously Bryce and Hunt, their power is shared with one another. Now, I'm not going to delve into Lucien a lot because we don't really know, but I think that SJM is making the connection of, especially in that scene when we figure out she's a seer, and then he's like, my eye can see things that others can't, you know, and like Elain was staring at him over his shoulder, stuff like that. So I think that there could be something like that with them, but we don't know yet. We know that Nesta and Cassian do not have anything like that. They don't share power, because Cassian is not as powerful as Nesta, and he's never gotten any of her powers from anything like that, like the other ones. So this is Elain and Rowan.
Okay.
It says, so this is when they're like fighting Maeve, I guess, and she's trying to pull him out of, kind of like Nesta with the mask. She's trying to pull him out of Maeve's Daemati power. So what Maeve did is that she trapped them all in their worst nightmares at this moment. Elain, for whatever reason, I don't know, either got out of hers or isn't in it or whatever, but she's trying to get Rowan to come back. And it says, waiting to strike from the other side of that dark doorway, Rowan hauled Elain to her feet. as their powers and their souls fused. The force of Rowan's magic hit her, ancient and racing. Ice and wind turned into searing flame. Oh yeah, she lost her magic. She lost her magic.
Okay.
Her heart sang, roaring at the power that flowed from Rowan and into her. At her side, her mate held fast, unbreakable. As one, they looked to Maeve. Maeve hissed, her dark power massing again. Rowan Whitethorn does not have the brute power that you once did. Perhaps he doesn't, but together we do. Light flared at their feet and Maeve's power surged, but too late. A portal opened, exactly as the word marks in the books Kale and Yrene had brought from the southern continent, and how it had promised. So, powers flowing between mates. Where is that? Where is that with Nesta and Cassian? We see no indication at all.
I will agree. I don't see it. Well, I mean, they're both like, yeah, sure, she's Lady Death, and her power is what? Is Silver Flame, right?
We see
I feel
nothing like that with that. And like the fact that it wasn't even Cassian that drew her out of the mask, that it was Azriel.
Well, Cassian did it in Silver Flames.
Well, the harp. He brought
Azriel.
her out of like the harp thing. But he was like yelling. It wasn't like his power. Like it wasn't like
No, he was
shared power.
he kissed her too. He was
Yeah.
kissing her.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, Melanie. Like, I don't know. But can we also talk about the fact that Rowan Whitethorn is also kind of like Winter Court coded? I don't know. He sounds like
Ethan.
He sounds very Winter Court to me.
Ethan from Crescent City, the ice and wind powers. And then Elain only smiled down at Maeve. We'll pretend my last words to you were something worthy of a song. She swung the burning sword. The burning sword. Maeve's mouth was still open in a scream as her head tumbled into the snow. Black blood sprayed.
Stop! Stop! What are you doing? Stop!
And Elain moved again, stabbing through her skull.
Stop it!
It's Nesta and Vesperus.
Melanie, stop! What are you doing?
You can't tell me you didn't know that they died. Come on.
We said no time.
No, but that's Nesta and Vesperus. Dude.
Oh my god. I'm so mad.
It's Nesta and Vesperus.
Stop reading what you're reading right now. I don't like. Is this Kingdom of Ash?
It connects to my Cormac theory. But
No,
like, you don't know
hear
all
it.
the context. It's just quotes.
I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear how she tells Maeve.
I put on the Tog chat today all of the clues that I found that Rhys was a Valg prince, and I'm totally right. I'm totally right about that.
You're gonna read the premium passage of the book.
It says, Maeve's Valg powers at last revealed, the same hellish power that the Valg princes possess.
Okay,
Daemati magic!
Right there. Stop. Okay, who is free to talk? Hannah.
I wanted to do the scene that was about Cormac that perfectly mirrored Cormac's quote-unquote death.
No.
But it's from Kingdom of Ash.
No. That is it. I have to get caught up. We are copied in Miriam or Hannah or Elise.
You are so far away, and I need to talk about it.
I know.
Well, saying you're gonna read it, and you don't read it.
I know, because I'm stuck. I'm like, I just, my desire has.
When can I talk about it? I need a date. I need a date where I could talk about this in regard to Cormac.
Who can we tap in for the
major
meantime?
Scene, and it's the exact mirror.
Then, do not say it, because I want to read it, because I already am dreading this.
Guess who fucking survives?
No, don't say it. Don't say it.
Fine,
I don't want to know.
Fine. We'll do my Elain theory.
Oh my
I'm
god.
so excited about this Cormac thing. I read this last night. I was kicking and screaming, dude. I go, I knew I was fucking right. I knew I was fucking right. I know he's not fucking dead. White rippling light, my ass.
What did the talk group say about Cormac not being dead because of what happened?
I didn't mention that to them because a lot of them haven't read Seers.
So you conveniently didn't mention
No,
that
they
to
don't.
them,
They didn't
Melanie?
read Crescent City. That's why they refused to read Crescent City. But they needed me to read Tog.
I know, I know. Yeah. Yikes.
There's a lot of thoughts in here, so I'm going to try. Okay. So I'll start with the quote again. God damn it.
What? The Tog thing? Okay, you need to
Life giver, world maker, white rippling magic.
stop fucking reading it.
I'm not anymore.
I swear to God.
I knew my smart boy wasn't dead.
All right, do we seriously need to call any of those Tog people and you can podcast with them until I am done with Tog?
No, we're moving on. It's fine. But I need a date where I could talk about it because I know I'm right now. And I'm going to have to put this in a fucking TikTok video.
Oh my God. Also, did you see that they banned TikTok?
Banned TikTok.
Yeah,
for now.
I know. You have it for now, so.
Anyway, coming back to spring.
Yeah.
My birthday's tomorrow, so I'm wearing a flower crown.
Happy birthday! Woo!
And actually, the episode comes out on your birthday, so happy birthday to you too! 4 days from now, I'm wearing my Nuon shirt.
Ooh, okay, so tell me what's on that. I can't see everything. There's a book, there's a snake,
there's
and
a
then
spell
there's
book, a snake, a potion vial.
Potion
It says
vial.
Nuon, Dawn Court, and then it says Master, Tinkerer, and Alchemist.
I literally love your shirts are getting like better and better. Like the more designs you it's really good. They look really good. I like them.
And as a little bridge into the spring court thing, which it isn't really a little bridge, but I told you that I started my crossover fanfic. I just jumped right into it because I couldn't let it go. So it's all 3 worlds.
Okay.
It's gonna kind of focus on Nesta getting the Dust Court, but it's all 3 worlds, and it's gonna be like all of my theories and just everything. I don't know, just everything. And it's called Twilight Entwined, and chapter 1 is up on my AO3. Can you guess who it starts with?
I actually have no idea. Who?
I'll read the first paragraph and I'll see if you can guess because I know you're gonna guess. It's so obvious. I'll read like the first part of the prologue. So it says 18 months ago. His gigantic orb of golden heat and rippling flames suddenly made way to a similar white light which seems to flow in waves around his body. And then I have like thoughts. So it says, body, does he have a physical form? He can't feel anything to be able to move. Even the piercing pain is gone. He feels the sensation of floating and wonders what is happening, that he has a consciousness but not a body. It almost seems like he's trapped in a tunnel, hovering through space as if the gilding light is a track on which he glides effortlessly. Unfortunately, that light and airy feeling gives way to being pulled harshly, and then he was falling faster and faster and faster. The tugging in his chest, what would have been his chest, is getting more insistent as he gracelessly tumbles without restraint, but this time sideways. Sideways, how odd. He squeezes his eyes shut. At least he still has eyes, and tries to remember what it was all for, tries to recall all of the memories he had back home, the ones he had made most recently, with no facades and genuine earnest. Friends, he had friends. Rather, he had friends. until he died for them. Is he dead? Is he being teleported to the other world? He can only hope that his effort has succeeded as a wash of sadness overtakes his form, his mind still thinking of them before time itself thrusts him upon the place he is needed the most, before everything he knows and everything he is goes black.
Oh, Lord. Is it Lucian, Tamlin, or Eris? That's what I want to know.
None of the above.
What? If you wrote that as Cassian, I'll hate you forever. Who is it?
Bright, blinding sunlight sears into his eyes as he squints and groans, his entire form throbbing. His body trembles and his shoulder burns as he hisses. The wind kicks up and chills him, as if he weren't trembling enough. Glancing down at his hands, his right one slick and covered with blood. His blood, he realizes when he presses it to his shoulder. Gods, he is still bleeding. And there is definitely a hole in his flesh. Shit, he was shot. Bleeding. Why? Why is he bleeding? He can't seem to remember much but pain and blinding light before it all went dark. He must have passed out. How long was he passed out? Is he dead? No, if he were dead, he wouldn't still be bleeding. He would be a ghost. At least he assumes he would be a ghost. So he's alive. Alive. How is he alive? He racks his brain for anything. He knows that he did something heroic. He sacrificed himself for someone. Someone. Gods, what was their name? What was his name again? Magic. He could feel the slightest trickle of it left in his veins despite the bullet. He tries to pull it out and yells out of pain, shaking. Deep. It's too deep. He tries to get to his feet, but his muscles refuse to work at the moment as he slumps back onto the ground. Gods, he is so tired. He remembers his magic. Rather, he feels it. Flames and shadows. It's no use using flames, so shadows it is. Drawing in a trembling breath, he uses the last dregs of his magic to fade and become a swirling shadow form, then curls up where he is, wherever this is. All he knows is the blue sky and the wind and the dusty earth below him near a stretch of pathways before the bliss of sleep takes him again.
Oh, Cormac.
The next time he wakes, he's roused by a tendril of magic probing at him. The air is chilled, but it's barely a problem in this form. He watches as an interesting female stands about 20 feet away, using her magic to suss him out. Her horse whinnies and stomps its feet, unsettled. He can sense the female's raw power and freezes, not sure what to do. She's Fae, though. She's Fae, too, like him. Well, at least he remembers that. Her magic feels similar somehow. For a moment, he thinks she looks like him. Oh, I remember a bit of what I look like then, too. She reels back her magic and looks a bit worried as she quickly tugs on the reins and leads her horse away. The moment she disappears, he instantly regrets not trying to speak to her to ask for help. Gods, he needs help. He wonders if the bullet will kill him, but perhaps the blood loss will first, though that could take months upon months, as the Gorsian bullet seems to not be doing its job to completely suppress his magic. Whether that's a good or bad thing is yet to be seen. As long as he can stay in shadow form, he can preserve himself. That's what he needs to do. He can wait. He can live in shadow form until he can find someone else and ask for help. Floating through this unknown place, he searches. What for, he isn't sure, so he lets his magic guide him. He doesn't know how long it's been when he wakes up in his male form again, struggling to change back into a shadow. Weak. He is so weak. So he begins to crawl, because there's nothing left he can do but pray to Erd for his life and hope she spares him soon. And then it goes present day, and then Nesta and Gwen and Emery are trekking up Ramiel because Cassian gave them some fucking training exercise.
I love that. I love it. That was very well written. That was really good. I love that you're making Corsta come true for yourself because it's not going to happen.
Oh, but it will.
I know. I like it. That was really good. That was really good. I'm excited to see where you take that because that'll be interesting.
He does not. He doesn't have his memories, so. But this is post Hofas.
Yeah.
Or most of it is post Hofas. That was like 18 months ago, like Akathas, whatever. And then this is post Hofas. And they're trekking up Ramiel, as I said, and Nesta comes across the black archway with the strange symbols on it.
Uh-huh.
And the residual magic, and it like calls to like, and she's like drawn to it and all this stuff, and Emery's kind of freaking out, and it was like an almost 4,000 word chapter.
That was very good. How long did that take you to write?
Putting it all together, maybe like 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah.
So
that was very, very good.
Yup. I need you to read it because I think you're gonna like it.
I would love to. Wait, so how many chapters do you have up there now?
Just one. It was just that one so far. I put it up yesterday night. But yeah, it's going to have, you know, the Tamlin lineage and
yes, I love that.
All the stuffs. If I can do it justice.
You got this. I mean, you have a big thing to tackle, though. Like that's a big concept there, plotline.
I know.
And so I'm curious how you're gonna do. I mean, it'll be killer once you do it. It's gonna be so good. It's gonna go. I know it'll go viral because your Corsta video went viral.
I should just be like, part 2 of Corsta video, the fic.
Yeah, you should.
The fic.
You should. You should like put a link to it so people can see it.
I'm gonna try to read this really quickly. All right, I have back to the spring court. All right, so,
Yes.
and we've said this quote before, but before I talk about it, I'm just gonna quickly go over it. This is in Akatar with Farah and Tamlin and Lucian.
Okay.
So this is what you do with your lives: spare humans from the treaty and have fine meals. I gave a pointed glance toward Tamlin's baldric, the warrior clothes Lucian's sword. Lucian smirked. We also dance with the spirits under the full moon and snatch human babes from their cradles to replace them with changelings. And then Tamlin cuts him off. Didn't, ... Tamlin interrupted, his deep voice surprisingly gentle. Didn't your mother tell you anything about us? I prodded the table with my forefinger, digging my short nails into the wood. My mother didn't have the time to tell me stories. I could reveal that part of my past at least. Lucian, for once, didn't laugh. After a rather stilted pause, Tamlin asked, how did she die? When I lifted my brows, he added a bit more softly, I didn't see signs of an older woman in your home. Predator or not, I didn't need his pity, but I said typhus when I was 8. Farah, Tamlin said, and I half-turned, a muscle feathered in his cheek. I'm sorry for your loss.
Oh, Tamlin,
I tried to keep from grimacing as I turned on my heel and left. So
I also, why would Tamlin say I'm sorry for your loss? He seemed like very
gently,
emotionally.
softly.
A muscle ticked in his jaw. How did she die?
I said Tamlin interrupts as if it should not be spoken about. Like the changeling thing, he literally like interrupts him. The I didn't see signs of an older woman in your house. I said he felt like he had to add that as to not seem suspicious.
Yeah. Agreed.
I said he totally knew Farah's mother. Let's be real. I said, the fact that Papa Archeron was besties with Vassa and you need permission from the queens to go over the wall makes so much sense now. But this also goes to my theory that I posted about Elain being a changeling. I'm convinced that Mama Archeron probably had a miscarriage or a stillborn after Nesta. And she was terrified of being shamed by the human nobility because remember, her big thing was she needs to party. Like she needs to be a part of the in crowd. She has to keep up her appearances. She's cold and all of this stuff. I said because she knew Tamlin, she probably went to him and asked him if there were any children in his court that were orphaned, etc. Which there would be, and I'll explain later. I said, I bet Elain was an orphaned Fae child. What if she was the daughter of one of the sentries that went over the wall and died? For the curse. Because remember, Elain is only 23 in Akatar. The curse was for 50 years. And they mentioned having sent some sentries periodically. I don't know. I said, what if Tamlin gave Mama Archeron Elain so she didn't have to admit that she had a miscarriage or a stillborn? Everyone said she was cold and put her reputation above everything and she only wanted to party, so I bet that she had Tamlin shapeshift this child to look like Papa Archeron because Nesta looked like her. I'm kind of guessing more than Well, we know Papa Archeron was like over on the continent and doing all his merchant stuff. So whether he knew she was pregnant or whether they had already had the child and she miscarried and was going to give birth, or it was a stillborn, she could have swapped out the kids, you know. Her other daughter looked like her, so she'd have a daughter that looks like her and a daughter that looks like her husband. That's why Elain looks so much like him. That's also why Elain had otherworldly grace and beauty, even as a human. Everyone.
Ooh, I like that point.
She's the most beautiful. She's the prettiest sister. She's gonna marry for you know, her looks and her like all that stuff. I said I think she was just shapeshifted into a human. Kind of
very
like
possible. Very possible.
And it wasn't a glamour because Nesta would have seen through a glamour.
True.
Remember?
Mm-hmm.
I think she was shapeshifted into a human. I think the cauldron, when she went in, simply reversed the shape-shifting.
Like Elain. That's just like what happened with her, right?
Yeah. And gave Elain back the full force of her seer abilities, because even as a human, both she and Papa Archeron would have like visions, or it was probably more like deja vu in their human forms. Here's one of them. So Papa Archeron said, "We need hope as much as we need bread and meat." He interrupted, his eyes clear for a rare moment. "We need hope or else we cannot endure." So there's that language where they have clouded eyes, or their eyes clear up, or they just look like they're paying attention. And it's him and Elain both, all the time. Feyre, his fingers trembled as he grasped my gloved hands, but his eyes became clearer and bolder than I'd seen them in years. There's a quote that was with her and Papa Archeron that said, "And both of them turned to me as if they were finally hearing me for the first time," or something like that. And it was like so pointed. And it's the same language that they use when she has a vision. It's crazy. Yeah, I said both she and Papa Archeron would kind of have deja vu type of things, but since it was Feyre's point of view, we don't really know what was actually happening. I think the cauldron ripped the shapeshift off, but because it loves her, it didn't want to scare her by changing her looks into what she originally would have looked like before Tamlin changed her to look like Papa Archeron, so it didn't. What if Elain figured it out somehow through a vision of the past and went to talk to Tamlin, and that is why she asked Amren all those questions about changing her body? Elain could be a big piece of the puzzle. We don't really know who she would be if she was just that orphan child, but this also goes with my other theory that I said, that I'm convinced Elain and Lucien are the Rapunzel retelling. She and him are Rapunzel and Flynn coded. It would make sense if Rapunzel, aka Elain, was taken from her family, aka her court, the Spring Court, as a baby and raised as a human, taken by a mother who wasn't her mother. And history always finds a way to where fate and the mother rights itself. Ultimately, she was turned back into her high fae form, but she's still shapeshifted to look like Papa Archeron, which reminds me of Lysandra and Tog, because the minute that Lysandra said that she shifted so young that she didn't even remember what she looked like, she turned into that like courtesan form, like when she was like a teenager, like when Arabin first took her in, like when she was really young. She does not remember what she was born looking like. She just said that she knew that she was like plain, but she doesn't know what she actually looks like. She doesn't know what she looks like. I said that's Elain. She would have no idea what she actually looks like, because if she looked like her real parents and they died, and then, you know, she was shapeshifted as a baby to look like Papa Archeron, that would make sense.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
I said I think Papa Archeron was half fae, but presented as mortal. We know he had a mortal life, especially because he had similar seer powers. I don't know if it was a coincidence that he and Elain had the same magic or not, but it's odd because Papa Archeron purposely knew about word marks enough to have somebody put them on their hovel door. Was it to protect himself and Elain from something?
Ooh, I'm convinced they got like Tog origins or something.
Like, was it to protect Elain from something?
I don't
And then I
know.
said, you have to remember Elaine's biggest want and need from the first book was that she wanted to travel like her father, wanted to go to the continent, and wanted to see things. And that's why I liken her to Rapunzel. She wanted the truth and she wanted to see the lanterns, and she was taken at birth by this mother who wanted her power. I don't really think that Mama Archeron was after her power. I just think that she needed a replacement child, just so that she wouldn't be shamed by the nobility. And then I said, some people might say, well, if Elain is Spring Court blood, she can rule the Spring Court, but it still doesn't choose females, so not really. And then I said,
well, we don't know that because it's chose Nesta, so that's not.
But that's just Dusk, because Dusk was always a female. So I don't know if it's just Dusk.
Yeah, or if it's going to be all of them. Yeah,
I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also said that perhaps, like, if the sentry was killed for the curse, right? I said, what if I don't know, what if the mother was killed by Amarantha or something? And Mama Archeron was just friends with Tamlin, and she knew that this child was an orphan.
That was really good. So what? Well,
so like she could literally be a changeling.
She could be,
and that's why she's Spring Court coded, because she's from the Spring Court
originally.
What if Papa A? Okay, what if Papa A had one of his visions and he knew? Because she was still his favorite child.
They got along so well, though. I don't know. I'm like very confused.
Like, what if he was like protecting her the most, and that's why Feyre and Nestor were always like, "Oh, Elaine's his favorite. Elaine's his favorite." Because what if he was just protecting her?
I don't know. Oh my gosh. It would make sense.